Chapter 568. He gulped down a few mouthfuls of food at lightning speed, completely forgetting about Old Man Tan's instructions. Gently pushing the bowl on the table, Qin Guang patted on Lin Jingwei's shoulder and muttered, "I'm not feeling well, so I'll take my leave first." Other people thought that he had mistakenly eaten Bai Hua's food and felt guilty, but Lin Jingwei knew what was going on. He said, "What if Grandpa Tan comes looking for you later?" Qin Guang shrugged. "I can eat any day. I'm annoyed when I see him. Today's not the right time. It's better to leave first." Lin Jingwei empathized with him. "Say, I've been suffering from Brother Bai for the past few days. Why don't I go with you?" Just as the two of them were discussing how to escape, the door of the youth hall was pushed open again. It was Bai Hua. He smiled apologetically and cupped his hands at the people inside. "Everyone, I'm so sorry. Things at the company were really troublesome and I couldn't leave. Thank you for making it." Lin Jingwei and Qin Guang, who were about to get up, looked at each other helplessly. They couldn't leave. Everyone got up and greeted Bai Hua. Among the younger generation, Bai Hua, who entered Cambridge at the age of 16, had an extremely high status. Not only because of his family background but also because of the potential and strength he showed. Geniuses were respected everywhere, not to mention a genius with a strong background. Bai Hua also walked in and went straight to the middle of the round table. His seat had always been the leader's seat. It had never changed in the past 2 years. He looked up and was about to greet Lin Jingwei, but he saw Qin Guang sitting next to Lin Jingwei with a straight face. Bai Hua's expression froze. He quickly pretended not to see Qin Guang and casually greeted Lin Jingwei. "I heard there were a lot of people here tonight. I almost didn't believe it, but seeing you dressed so well, I knew Secretary Chu wasn't lying." Bai Hua was actually in a good mood. If he had a chance to meet the elders later, he would be able to show off. After being in Tianjin for so long, he finally did something practical. Tonight, after several days of wrangling with the 3 Arabian companies, including changing the language of negotiation, changing the translator, excluding Aolon Company on the grounds of unfair competition, quietly cutting off the tentacles extended by the other vice president who was trying to set him up, and reintroducing the 3rd company, after a series of torturous events, the preliminary negotiations finally began. As the vice president of Tianjin Energy, Bai Hua had a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders. In the eyes of outsiders, he was young and promising. His starting point was so high that it made others envious, but only he knew how he felt. As the young master of the Bai family, sitting in this position, there would always be countless pairs of eyes staring at him. If he made a mistake, not only would he be crushed to pieces, but his career would also be affected. For someone like him, if his career stagnated for a year or two, he would lose every step and the height he could reach in the future would be affected. The proud Bai Hua would never allow himself to fail, even if it was just a stain on his career. It was all thanks to Qin Yu that he was able to turn this misfortune into a blessing. During the half-an-hour car ride from the company to here, he didn't think about the negotiations from the afternoon until now. All he could think about was Qin Yu, the international supermodel. She was tall, cold, rational and talented. She was aggressive at the negotiating table but reasonable. What a perfect model of a strong woman. As a woman, Qin Yu should be an A-. Her chest size should be a fatal flaw, but Bai Hua didn't care about it. After living abroad for so long, he had seen all kinds of supermodels. He didn't like women with big breasts but no brains. Besides, how many of the top supermodels in the world weren't flat-chested? How could he conquer the world with an uneven chest? Most importantly, there had never been a woman who could make my heart beat so fast the first time I met her and I couldn't breathe. That's right, she must be the one that I've looked back at thousands of times in my previous life in exchange for a passing encounter in this life. Only someone with her talent and temperament can bring out the best in me, Bai Hua. I should be happy that I was born in the modern world. It's not difficult to find someone. As long as I don't give up, sooner or later, I can turn this passing fate into a lifelong marriage. Come on, Bai Hua. He clenched his fists to cheer himself on. With such a mood, Bai Hua sat down and tidied up his napkin while patting Lin Jingwei on his left. He whispered, "Jingwei, do you still remember what happened last time? Today we're going to talk about the aftermath of that matter. It's almost done. Thanks to your and Qin Yu's help. To be honest, you should pity me. When are you going to help me ask her out again? Don't worry, I won't show any unnecessary affection in front of her. I won't make her feel uncomfortable. Just treat it as an ordinary dinner between friends. Even if the fire in my heart burns even brighter, I will definitely hide it, okay? Didn't you say she wants to start a business? I've been asking people to pay attention to the Industry and Commerce Bureau, but I haven't seen any company registered by the name of Qinyu. Lin Jingwei nearly spat out the water he was drinking. Brother Bai, aren't you a bit too much? You even went to the Industry and Commerce Bureau to check on someone? Besides, what the hell are you hiding? I believe in your acting skills, but the problem is that the main character is sitting right next to me. He can hear every word you say clearly. Also, this bastard is pinching my thigh, okay? It hurts. It hurts so much. Lin Jingwei was also miserable. There was a tiger on his left and a wolf on his right. He was like a meat sandwich between the two villains. Hey, let's not talk about this. I'm starving. Let's eat something to moisten our stomach first. Bai Hua said. He picked up the bowl and went to the Longjing bamboo fungus in the middle of the table. Let me tell you, this bamboo fungus is the best product grown by Zijin's family. This year's harvest is not good. The whole country's total output is only a few caddies. Most of it was given to me to show filial respect to the elders. Tonight's pot is the last bowl of this year. Then he stirred the pot of soup with his chopsticks for a long time. It was empty. There was not even a single strand of hair. This. Bai Hua was stunned. It really wasn't that he wanted to show off how great he was, but those who were familiar with him all knew how much he loved bamboo fungus. Besides, this pot of soup was provided by him, so it was reasonable to wait for him to arrive before everyone started to divide it. It was enough for everyone to eat a piece and have a taste, but what was the point of this? My bamboo fungus. I didn't even leave a single piece of it. Qin Guang remained silent from beginning to end. He only cared about filling his stomach. In any case, he acted as if it was none of his business. His mind was filled with Bai Hua's words. The fire in his heart was burning. He did not know why, but whenever he thought of those words, his stomach would feel uncomfortable. He had to eat some soup to calm his nerves. Jingwei, what's going on? Bai Hua turned his head and asked Lin Jingwei. He also saw the flickering eyes of the other people at the table. In this situation, asking Lin Jingwei was the most appropriate. Asking someone else would make him seem overbearing. Lin Jingwei coughed lightly. It's all my fault. I didn't think too much and started eating first. I'll take the blame. Lin Jingwei thought with tears in his eyes. If this matter ended here, then although Bai Hua was a little unhappy with today's meal, he would not have any opinion on Lin Jingwei taking the blame. Under normal circumstances, even if Lin Jingwei expressed his stance, no one would expose him. However, there was an exception. It was the nitpicky boy Xin Yuliang who had been sitting on the left side of Qin Guang. All the children in the courtyard knew that Bai Hua liked Jin Shuiwe. But now his favorite Longjing bamboo fungus had been snatched away by a nameless internet celebrity, Qin Guang. If he did not stir up trouble, how could he face the fact that he had a crush on Jin Shuiwe behind Bai Hua's back for so many years? Even if this would make Lin Jingwei unhappy, as long as he could make Qin Guang and Bai Hua fight, it would be worth it. Xin Yuliang clenched his teeth and made up his mind. It was a pity that he did not know that Bai Hua had a change of heart. Brother Jingwei, isn't this clearly eaten by Qin Guang? Xin Yuliang poked his head out and stared at everyone. Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua's faces stiffened. Everyone at the table felt their hearts tighten. In fact, when Lin Jingwei took the pot, Bai Hua had already guessed it. He had planned to use this opportunity to get out of the situation, but he did not expect Xin Yuliang to say it out loud. Qin Guang saw that he could no longer hide it. He first glanced at Xin Yuliang, who was sitting on his left, and gently put down his chopsticks. I ate it. Tasted pretty good. I only ate one of your dishes. It's not like I know you have a lot of problems. You want me to apologize to you in public? This time the situation at the table became very interesting. Brother Xiaobai's beloved was snatched away first, and the dish he liked was snatched away on the dining table. It was the same as giving you a slap and then spitting on your face. Something bad was going to happen. Frankly speaking, everyone felt that it was reasonable for Qin Guang to apologize to Bai Hua for such a small matter. But when they thought about the love-rival relationship between the two of them because of Jin Shuiwe, it seemed that he could not apologize. Otherwise, it would look like he was admitting defeat in public. This was difficult. Xin Yuliang's words had placed Qin Guang and Bai Hua on the fire. Don't look down on the fact that they're all youngsters. None of them were easy to deal with. Lin Jingwei suppressed his anger and glared fiercely at Shen Yuliang. He quickly explained, "Brother Bai, don't be angry. Brother Guang suddenly called Grandpa Tan over today. I don't know what you like. There's no other meaning." Bai Hua looked at Qin Guang and slowly sat down. "It's good that you like it. I'll specially make some for you next time." Although everyone could hear the anger in his voice, he actually held it in. Qin Guang also laughed. "Thank you, Brother Bai Hua. To tell you the truth, I've loved to eat this since I was a child. Just now I was excited to see it. I haven't eaten it for almost a year, so I'm craving it." His words also gave Bai Hua an explanation. At this point, it was almost time for the matter to come to an end. Shen Yuliang came again. This time he finally pulled out a heavy bomb. "Qin Guang, you've been running the internet for the past year, right? The income of a driver isn't that good. It's because you can't afford to eat bamboo shoots. What a coincidence. I have some shares in the internet company. Some time ago, I heard that there was a top driver in Wujing who suddenly stopped doing business. I took a look at him. He seems to have the same name and looks as Qin Guang. It's just that he has hair on his ID," he said with a fake smile. But in his heart he sneered. "Didn't you just say it's none of my business? What does it have to do with me where you're at? Speaking of which, some people's luck is really good. They ran the internet and were lucky enough to save Sister Shiyue's life. They even saved themselves from becoming a hot internet celebrity. I'm really envious of them." With these words, he completely shed all pretense of cordiality. Anyway, Qin Guang's love rival Bai Hua was here. Shen Yuliang went all out. He pointed out Qin Guang's previous poor identity and ridiculed him for relying on Jin Shiyue to become famous. At the same time, he reminded everyone that Brother Bai Hua's sister Shiyue had been snatched away. Lin Jingwei slammed his chopsticks on the table. "Shen Yuliang, are you still going to eat today? If not, then get out." Bai Hua's situation was even more awkward. Everyone present knew that he used to care about Jin Shiyue. But now he really had a change of heart. He had already clearly told Qin Guang that he wished Jin Shiyue to find true happiness. In fact, there was nothing between him and Jin Shiyue. He also didn't want Lin Jingwei to turn around and tell Qin Yu that he still had feelings for Jin Shiyue because there was no such thing. But he knew that Lin Jingwei would definitely do it if he had the chance. But now if he didn't take a stand, he would lose face again. For a moment he didn't know whether to go up or down. He was extremely disgusted. He also hated Shen Yuliang, who didn't know what was good for him, but he couldn't directly flip out like Lin Jingwei. Seeing Bai Hua's ashen face, Shen Yuliang thought that his fanning the flames had a miraculous effect. He quickly struck while the iron was hot. "Brother Jingwei, what you said isn't right. We're all on the same side. If we eat and drink at the same table, we can say whatever we want. If we can't even talk openly, then why are we sitting here? Our parents want us to keep in touch. Isn't that because they want us to get together often and talk openly? For example, Brother Bai is now the vice president of Tianjin. Brother Jingwei, your environmental protection company is about to make a name for itself. As for me, I'm just doing some investments and becoming an angel." Even Tong Xiaoming, a high school student, started a fashion brand that has gone overseas. By the way, I heard that Xiaoming's company was in the limelight during the Paris Fashion Week, right? Shen Yuliang was talking about the high school girl with braids. Tong Xiaoming nodded awkwardly. "It's all right. It's mainly because of my partner who's shitty that I'm just basking in the limelight." "Then Qin Guang, you're an internet celebrity now. Don't you think that's a little embarrassing? Brother Bai, don't you think so? We're all doing big things here. How can an internet celebrity be our spokesperson?" The more Shen Yuliang spoke, the more arrogant and presumptuous he became. Lin Jingwei's face became uglier and uglier. Bai Hua was also angered. However, Shen Yuliang really thought that he was tagging along with Bai Hua's preferences. What was there to be afraid of? Qin Guang gently put down his chopsticks and turned to look at this guy. "Are you done?" When Lin Jingwei heard this voice, he felt that it was going to be bad. He knew Qin Guang too well. When he spoke so calmly, it meant that he was about to beat someone up. Usually, if Qin Guang were to start a fight, he would roll up his sleeves and join in without hesitation. However, the situation today was different. The people sitting next to them were many elders, and the ones sitting next to them were their fathers and uncles. If he were to start a fight, all the juniors would be in trouble. "Brother Guang, calm down. Calm down." Lin Jingwei didn't think about it and put his hand on Qin Guang's stomach. Damn it. This guy looks skinny with his clothes on, but his stomach is full of iron plate meat. Qin Guang gently pushed Lin Jingwei away. Let go. I have no intention of beating you up. Seeing this, Xin Yuliang's eyes darted around. He thought to himself that this was indeed a small character who couldn't be seen in public. Other than beating people up, he had no other ability. But in our circle, beating people up is the worst way to go. It will only make people look down on you. Today, I helped Brother Bai trample on Qin Guang's face. Brother Bai must be very happy, right? If it was the Qin Guang of the past, he might really beat someone up. But now he was over 200 years old. Yes, you are amazing. I'm just a lousy internet celebrity. There's nothing amazing about me. Maybe I'll be dead tomorrow. Qin Guang sneered. Actually, he had a company with a market value of over 100 million. It was just that he didn't even know the name of the company Liuli bought, so he couldn't be bothered to mention it. Seeing him admit defeat, Xin Yuliang laughed. It's good that you know your place. But everyone can't choose their parents when they're born, right? I'm happy, carefree, and earning my own living. That's pretty good. I'm not as rich as you, but this money of mine is earned by myself. I'm happy and comfortable using it. As for you thinking that I'm relying on Jin Shuiwei, I can't be bothered to explain it to you. I'm not close to you. Qin Guang's words had basically offended almost everyone at the table. He did it on purpose. From the start of the meal until now, he could tell that when others gave him face, it was all because of Lin Jingwei. He wasn't the same type of person as these second or third generation people in this circle. It was very boring to interact with these people. There were so many things to pay attention to when eating dishes, drinking soup, and sitting at a table. They were all based on seniority. If he accidentally ate the wrong dish, it would be like poking a huge hole in the basket. He was simply annoyed. He didn't want to rely on Jin Shuiwei to sneak into this so-called upper-class society, and he didn't want to rely on Lin Jingwei to stick to these people's cold faces. They thought that he was just a small internet celebrity. So what? Anyway, in the future we'll walk our own paths and no one will get in the way of the other. If it wasn't for Lin Jingwei and Tan Zhaohua's face, Qin Guang would have already flipped the table and left. Bai Hua also didn't expect Xin Yuliang to be like this. In such a short period of time he had fired so many shots at him, making a good meal taste like this. He also understood that Xin Yuliang was actually doing this to curry favor with him. He knew very well that the relationship between Lin Jingwei and Qin Guang was very strong. If today's matter wasn't handled well, Xin Yuliang would be dead. But because of this matter, it would create a knot between him and Lin Jingwei and he would be really sad. Xin Yuliang, shut up and get out. Bai Hua didn't get up. Instead, he lightly patted the table and pointed to the door. Xin Yuliang was stunned. Why? No reason. I just don't like the sight of you. Get out. I'm saying this for the last time. Bai Hua finished speaking and didn't look at him anymore. Xin Yuliang completely did not understand why. Why did Brother Xiao Bai suddenly get angry with him? Wasn't he helping him? The others at the table were also confused. Brother Bai's behavior was a little strange. No matter how they looked at it, it seemed like he was on Qin Guang's side. What exactly happened between the two of them? What was their relationship now? Lin Jingwei didn't say anything. He only used his little finger to look at the table, and his face was cold as if he was thinking about something. Qin Guang was the first to get up. Lin Jingwei, Brother Bai, there's no need to be like this. This table is full and other than the two of you no one else is familiar with me. I don't have any intention of sticking to anyone. I'll look for you two for dinner when I'm free. Today I'll leave first. Previously, Qin Guang didn't have a good impression of Bai Hua. But after these two sentences he felt that Bai Hua was quite a good person. It was obvious who was the one causing trouble at the table. It was rare that Bai Hua was using the title of his love rival to support him. Chinese men cared about their reputation the most. Bai Hua was sacrificing his reputation to protect his own. No wonder he was the only friend Lin Jingwei had in this circle. He was a good guy. Qin Guang, where are you going? I said you can't leave today. If you leave, wouldn't our trip be in vain? At this moment Tan Zhaohua walked in first, followed by Old Master Jiang and Old Master Jin. Old Master Jiang was holding a wine bottle and a glass in his hand. It was obvious that he was here to propose a toast. The eyes of the youngsters in the youth hall suddenly narrowed. They were all dumbfounded. The old masters came to the youth hall to propose a toast. Faster thief. They had been eating with the old masters for decades, but this was the first time they saw the old masters coming to the youth hall to propose a toast. What the F***ck? Chapter 569. Among the group of people that came in, Qin only knew Tan Zhaohua. The other two looked vaguely familiar, but he couldn't remember who they were. Perhaps he had seen them on TV when he was very young. He didn't think much of it and smiled at Tan Zhaohua. General Tan, I'm done eating. I have nothing to do here, so I came over to say hello and leave. He didn't want to make the situation too awkward. It was obvious that the young people at the table were led by Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua. There was no need to bring the conflict between the young people in front of the old men. It would also make it difficult for Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua to explain. The few old men, however, were shrewd enough to notice the strange atmosphere in the youth hall as soon as they entered the room. Although they didn't know what happened, it was certain that Qin Guang and the group of young people didn't have a good relationship. Many of the old men glanced at Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei. They all knew that old Lin's son had a good relationship with Qin Guang. So the reason why Qin Guang had a conflict with the people in the youth hall must be because of Bai Hua. Old man Jin knew very well that last year, Bai Hua had come to him in private and expressed his feelings for Jin Shiriyue. At that time he rejected him with the reason that he didn't want to get involved with young people's feelings. Old man Jin sighed in his heart. Young people nowadays really took the initiative. As an older generation, it was really difficult to deal with them. Old man Zhang's temper was much more fiery. He took 2 or 3 steps forward and pushed Qin Guang to his seat. Brat, you're young, but your temper is not small. You're just like me when I was young. I like you. We're really fated. Just because of your clean and fresh hairstyle, I have to drink with you today. Don't leave. If you don't drink to your heart's content, you're not allowed to leave. As he spoke, he reached out to touch Qin Guang's bald head. Qin Guang was pushed back by the old man and he didn't know who this person was. For a moment he was embarrassed. This person's hands were not honest. If it wasn't for the fact that his bald head was as bright as mine, I would have kicked him. Lin Jingwei, who was next to him, reacted quickly. He stood up and pushed Qin Guang back to his seat. Grandpa Jiang said that you should sit down. Old Jiang patted his forehead. Hey, I forgot to introduce myself. My surname is Jiang Yage's grandfather. Shall we have a drink? Qin Guang suddenly realized that he was Jiang Yage's grandfather. Sure enough, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. No wonder Jiang Yage's brain has always been short-circuited. She inherited her feelings from your grandfather. I'm not even close to you, yet you're using my bald head to get close to me. It's really crazy. You like bald heads, but I'm bald because my hair was eaten by a deer, okay? It turns out to be Grandpa Jiang. Jiang Yage often mentioned you to me. She said that Grandpa Jiang was approachable. Today I met you and you really deserve your reputation. Although he had already cursed in his heart, Qin Guang still sat down with a smile on his face. Damn, this old man was really strong. He was so old, but the muscles on his arms were as strong as his thighs. He must have been a butcher in the army when he was young. Old Jiang patted Qin Guang on the shoulder with a smile. Oh, young man, you're really good at talking. Good, very good. Very good. Otherwise, you would have become old Jin's grandson-in-law. I really want to make you and Yage a couple. Qin Guang thought silently. Old man, you really don't need to make me a couple. Jin Shiriyue is the cover. Your granddaughter is the one who really gives me a headache. Hey old Jin, why are you standing there? Come here. Come and see your grandson-in-law. He's a talented young man. If you don't come here, I'll really snatch him away. Old Jiang waved at old Jin, who was standing at the door, hesitating whether to come in or not. In fact, before coming here, old Jin had also thought about this situation, but he thought that Bai Yunfei was sensible and wouldn't embarrass him, so when he saw the scene at the door he was a little unprepared. But after all, he was an old ginger and he knew what to do. As an elder, he couldn't become timid because of the conflict between the younger generation. Moreover, when he saw Qin Guang, the rumored grandson-in-law, for the first time at the door, he really liked him. Although Qin Guang was wearing casual clothes today, perhaps it was because he had been hanging out with the elites in the army for the past few days. Coupled with his clean and neat bald head, his whole body was full of a soldier's aura, which suited his taste very well. Forget it, Shiriyue didn't like Bai Hua in the first place, but she had a soft personality, so she didn't know how to reject others directly. Now that she's already with Qin Guang, Why don't I, as her grandfather, be the bad guy? This can be considered as a timely end to the knot between the two families, so that there won't be more problems in the future because of this relationship. Old Jean was usually gentle, but once he made a decision he was extremely decisive. After so many years he and old Master Jiang, who was anxious at first and then slow at the end, complemented each other. In an instant, a warm smile hung on his face, and he quickly walked to Qin Guang's side, greeting the other young people as he walked. Qin Guang, I've been waiting to see you for a long time. You brat, you really made me wait. Qin Guang's mind completely crashed. When old Jiang revealed old Master Jin's identity, he already wanted to run away. He hated old man Tan to the core. Didn't they say that old Master Jin might not come today? Now that Jiang Yage's grandfather and Jin Shiyue's grandfather were both here, old mister, aren't you pushing me into a fire pit? You're basically giving me an active volcano full of magma. He couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. Jin, he really didn't know how to address old Master Jin. If he called him Grandfather Jin, it would be too distant. After all, old Master Jin was his grandson-in-law in name. If he directly called him grandfather, it would be too abrupt for them to meet for the first time. His words were full of swords and knives. It was all a trap. Unexpectedly, in old Master Jin's eyes, his bashful appearance was like the nervousness of meeting for the first time. This made the old man feel even more comfortable in his heart. This young man was serious about his granddaughter and treated him like a grandfather. When he recalled how Tan Zhaohua had bragged about the 40 darts trained by Qin Guang over the past few days, he was even more satisfied. He was sincere, talented, young and promising. His general policy of handing the young man's family matters to the young man was right. Shiyue had found him a good grandson-in-law. He patted Qin Guang's shoulder in satisfaction. It's fine. Don't be nervous. You can just call me grandfather. I won't interfere with you and Shiyue's matters. I support you. Young people should be brave. As long as you don't do anything too out of line, I'll be easy to talk to. You two are so good. She's busy with work, so you should take care of her. But I know Shiyue's character the best. She looks soft on the outside, but she's tough on the inside. Since she's so open about her matters with you, she must have made up her mind to marry you. Young man, don't do anything that will let Shiyue down. Although old Master Jin's words sounded casual, they carried a lot of weight. Coming from his mouth in front of everyone, it completely represented the entire Jin family's attitude towards Qin Guang. The young people at the table were stunned, especially Xin Yuliang. Just now he had dared to make things difficult for Qin Guang because he was sure that Qin Guang had just gotten together with Jin Shiyue. They hadn't even gotten married yet. Although the Jin family was a liberal family, it was still a circle where people of equal social status were important. If Qin Guang wanted to enter the Jin family, he would have to cross the mountain of Baihua. The Jin family's threshold was also quite high, so it wouldn't be easy to cross it. But suddenly old Master Jin had come out to express his stance. This was equivalent to an ancient scholar who had just passed the county level being appointed as the prime minister by the emperor. He could travel 1,000 miles in a single step. Old Master Jin, this is the first time you've met. Do you have to be like this? Why are you acting so different from the rigid and strict old masters we've known since we were young? Why is this so? Not to mention these people, even Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei's heads were filled with question marks. Although they had expected old Master Jin to be easy to talk to, isn't your attitude a little too good? This is the person who snatched your granddaughter away without telling you anything. Lin Jingwei felt that it was the end of the world. It's over, it's over, it's over. Brother Guang and Jin Shiyue didn't have that kind of relationship. If old Master Jin found out that Brother Guang and Jin Shiyue were fake, wouldn't the sky fall down? Lin Jingwei couldn't help but look at Qin Guang with sympathy. Brother, we've really gone too far this time. If something really happens, what should I do to protect you? What did you do to make old Master Jin let you enter the house so quickly? Qin Guang squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. Thank you, Grandpa. Help, oh my God, help me, can I turn back time? Can I not come for this meal today? I'm so regretful. Old man Jiang came up to him again. Hey, old Jin, what did I say just now? Don't you think we look more like grandfather and grandson than you? Don't be so sure. I think Shao Qin and Solomon are more compatible. He was deliberately teasing old Master Jin. To be honest, when the two salted duck eggs, one old and one young, were placed together, They really complemented each other. They reflected each other in the air and made the room brighter. Qin Guang cried even louder in his heart. The main character is here. The main character won't let me go either. Thinking about Jiang Yage's actions, Qin Guang's legs started to tremble. As the saying goes, one's mouth is soft when one takes advantage of others. He had taken advantage of Jiang Yage, and now that he's standing beside her grandfather, he naturally felt anxious. Next, Qin Guang laughed and drank with Old Master Jin, Old Master Jiang and Old Master Tan. He was the younger generation, so he didn't refuse anyone. If someone pointed at him, he would raise a glass. Old Man Jin wasn't feeling well today, so he only drank 2 mouthfuls. On the other hand, Old Man Jiang and Old Man Tan were pulling Qin Guang to drink cup after cup, insisting that he drink to his heart's content today. Fortunately, Qin Guang has a great capacity for alcohol, so he only has to bring it on. It's best for us to speak less and drink more. He really didn't wish to discuss Jin Shiyue's matter with Old Man Jin. Every additional word he said would only sink him deeper into the mud. He was really afraid that when the truth came to light, he wouldn't be able to extricate himself from the mud. The others at the table were stunned and peeked at Qin Guang and the 3 old men as if there was no one else present. You said you were toasting, but aren't you toasting too warmly? What the hell? What the hell is this for? We don't understand. From the beginning to the end, the group of juniors in the youth hall only dared to raise their heads and greet the old men when they came in. However, they heard every word clearly from the beginning to the end, not daring to miss a single word. Although they didn't know what happened, it was obvious that Qin Guang had become a favorite in front of the old men. Although it was only 3 old men who came to toast, it was almost unheard of in their circle. It was even more unimaginable that they were so familiar with each other. Xin Yuliang sat on the chair, and behind him was Old Man Jiang, who had his arm around Qin Guang's shoulder. He felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, and cold sweat flowed down his back. He had caused a huge disaster and poked a huge hole in the ground. Isn't Qin Guang an internet celebrity? What kind of medicine did these old men take? One had to know that even though everyone present was a direct descendant of the younger generation, when they met these elders, other than nodding and greeting them, they didn't even have the chance to speak to them. Among those present, only Bai Hua was asked by the elders to see if he had made any progress recently. As for the others, don't even think about it. Bai Hua was rarely left out. As the absolute leader of the younger generation in Yanjing, he had always been the center of attention when he was with the older generation. But today's protagonist was obviously not him, which made him feel a little disappointed. But he quickly adjusted his mentality. Perhaps the old men deliberately came to help Qin Guang. After all, from Xin Yuliang's previous attitude, it could be seen that the people at this table didn't have a high acceptance of Qin Guang. At this time, Old Man Jiang had almost drunk to his heart's content. He seemed to be a little tipsy. In such a short time he had unknowingly drunk 4 ounces of wine, and Qin Guang had drunk a whole 1.5 pounds. Unfortunately, Old Man Jiang was old and he was the one who couldn't hold on anymore. Old Man Jiang waved his hand. You are indeed the boy I like. I admire your refreshing drinking. Okay, let's stop here today. I'll find you another day to drink slowly. Everyone was relieved. It was finally time to leave. Unexpectedly, he suddenly took 2 steps forward and stood behind Bai Hua. He patted Bai Hua's shoulder heavily and said with the help of alcohol, "Little Bai, there are some things that I, Old Jin, can't say. I, Old Jiang, have drunk a little, so what I say may be nonsense and not very pleasant to hear. But you have to listen." Old Man Jin wanted to stop him. "Old Man Jiang, that's enough." Old Man Jiang waved his hand. "I'm just saying a few words. I won't make things difficult for the younger generation. Bai Hua, I watched you grow up. Your brain is really good. We all have high hopes for you. But you are a person who wants to do big things, so you have to think things through. Don't fight with your brother Qin Guang. You are a young man, so there is nothing you can't overcome. To borrow a popular saying among you young people, there is no problem in this world that can't be solved with a barbecue. If there is, then 2 barbecues. As he said that, he patted Bai Hua's shoulder meaningfully. His words were actually very heavy, very straightforward, and even very hurtful. If it were anyone else, especially Old Jin, Bai Hua would definitely be hurt by Old Jiang's words. However, Old Jiang deliberately made himself sound like he was drunk, so Bai Hua wouldn't be too bothered by it. Although his face was red from drinking, his heart was clear. How did Bai Hua feel at this moment? Grievance, great grievance. I wasn't the one who made things difficult for Qin Guang just now. I don't want to be the scapegoat. He turned slightly and looked at Shen Yuliang as if he wanted to eat him alive. The culprit glared at him until a chill ran down his spine. Grandpa Jiang, don't say that. I also apologize to Grandpa Jean. In the past I was insensible and didn't separate the relationship between a brother and a sister. Now I've thought it through. I like Shuiwe very much, but I really like her as if she is my biological sister. I'm not bragging, I have found someone I really like. Jingwei introduced him to me and I've been urging him to help me build a bridge. As for me, I will give everyone a military pledge. Within 2 years I will definitely let everyone attend my wedding, okay? Bai Hua really didn't want to be the scapegoat, so he had no choice but to desperately step on Lin Jingwei's foot under the table, urging him to hurry up and save him. Lin Jingwei, who was playing with the invisibility suit, turned pale. Oh my god, military pledge your sister. There is no such person on earth, okay? But this was not the time to undermine him, so Lin Jingwei could only chuckle. Yes, really, I can testify. Oh, there's such a good thing. The few old men were happy. The Bai family's brat actually made a military pledge for his marriage. This was really a joyous matter in their circle. If old Bai knew about this in the afterlife, these old men could finally relax. Who didn't know that Bai Hua was proud and arrogant? It wasn't easy to find a woman that could catch his eye. Old man Jean was the happiest. He finally got rid of the knot in his heart. Jingwei, you really have to pay attention to your brother Bai Hua's matter. Lin Jingwei nodded vigorously. Yes, I will definitely pay attention. Qin Guang, who had already drunk 1.5 liters of wine, silently stuffed meat into his mouth. He felt that he had become the center of the storm today. Everything was revolving around him. It was too scary, really too scary. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that Bai Hua would act as if he had obtained an imperial sword. He would actually complain about Lin Jingwei in front of everyone. I've already asked Jingwei to help me make an appointment with many people, but he's always using all sorts of excuses. He won't even let me meet him. Hey little Lin, how can you treat your brother like this? Old man Jiang had a fiery temper. He raised his hand and slapped Lin Jingwei's head. Do you still want to take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of me? Lin Jingwei looked like he was about to cry. No. It's nothing. It's just a little inconvenient. What's so inconvenient about meeting and having a meal? In Wuxia, who can't even have a meal together? Is it inconvenient today or tomorrow? Or is it inconvenient every day? The more old man Jiang said, the angrier he got. Make an appointment. Make an appointment. I will make an appointment for you. I will. I swear. Lin Jingwei was about to cry. Why is my life so bitter? The military order number 2 came soon after. Then it's settled. I will ask brother Bai Hua later. If you don't do this well, I will bring your grandfather to beat you up. Old man Jiang was satisfied. Bai Hua was even more happy. He suddenly felt that it was worth it to be a scapegoat today. Finally, the clouds parted to reveal the moon. Let's see if you still want to be mysterious. Lin Jingwei felt a mouthful of blood welling up in his chest. At this moment he only wanted to ask the heavens. Beneath the table, his right leg was bruised from Bai Hua's stomp, and his left leg was nearly fractured from Qin Guang's retaliation. Qin Guang didn't want to say anything. I will make an appointment with you. The 3 old men finally left with satisfaction. As soon as they walked out, old man Jiang and old man Jean looked at each other. There was no trace of drunkenness on their faces. They were full of happiness seeing their children and grandchildren. This time we have a good explanation for the dead old Bai. Old man Jiang's eyes were filled with tears. Elder Jean nodded as well. Yeah, if not, I'd feel really bad. Back then, Elder Bai was injured so badly because he wanted to protect the 2 of us. He didn't even have the chance to enjoy his good life before he died. I still remember how he hugged Bai Hua before he died, crying and begging us to take care of him. These past few years I've been feeling really helpless. Old man Jean, it hasn't been easy for you these past few years. It hasn't been easy. On the other side, old man Tan signaled to Secretary Chu, who was waiting at the door. Secretary Chu understood and kept them in suspense. They couldn't let the juniors in the room naively think that the 3 old men were promoting Qin Guang because of Jin Shuiwe. They had to let them know the true importance of Qin Guang. Background was only one of the reasons why they guided the juniors. The most important factor was their ability. They had to let the other kids know that Qin Guang relied on his true ability. Everything else was useless and unimportant. Chapter 570. In the youth hall, once the old men left, the atmosphere became deathly still. Bai Hua was gnashing his teeth in hatred at Shen Yuliang for making trouble out of nothing and making him a scapegoat. But at the same time he was proud that he had made Lin Jingwei sign a military order in front of the elders. He could finally see the person he had been yearning for day and night. Lin Jingwei, on the other hand, was sandwiched between a certain someone who wrote Qin Guang and read Qin Yu, and a certain someone whose mind was filled with Qin Yu. He could neither live nor die. Qin Guang, on the other hand, was thinking about what he should and shouldn't say. The things that should and shouldn't have happened had all happened tonight. He had to quickly contact Jin Shiyue and tell her everything that had happened tonight. What should he do? The fake relationship was going to be a reality. As for the military order that Lin Jingwei had just signed, Qin Guang didn't take it seriously at all. Blame me? What does it have to do with me? But at this time the person at the table who was suffering the most was Shen Yuliang. His original plans were all for naught. Especially when he heard Bai Hua publicly declare that he didn't have any feelings for Jin Shiyue and that his heart belonged to someone else, he realized that his flattery tonight was all for naught. He even felt that the other people at the table were looking at him with a hint of ridicule in their expressions. He wanted to say something to ease the atmosphere and restore some of their relationship, but Qin Guang didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him. Lin Jingwei quietly poked Qin Guang's leg. "Brother, can you not step on my foot? I am also a scapegoat for this matter, okay? What have you been up to these past few days? I feel like today's events are very sci-fi, like I'm living in a dream." Qin Guang was well aware that the only reason why Old Man Tan would bring Jin Shiyue and Jiang Hua over was because of what he had done in Shun these past few days. He didn't expect it himself. "Didn't I just teach you a few skills in darts? Is there a need to praise me like this? Am I that important? Was the contribution of this matter really that great?" He also didn't understand how difficult it was for those in power to deal with those martial artists who had mastered inner strength techniques. If he knew more secrets, perhaps he would be able to understand the ecstasy of many old men. At this moment, Secretary Chu walked in with a glass and a bottle in his hand. Although Secretary Chu was just a secretary, he didn't put on airs in front of these second and third generations. He often helped them run errands. For example, at today's gathering, Secretary Chu played the role of a waiter. However, as a popular man in front of the grand elders, he still had quite a high status in front of these juniors, so no one dared to look down on him. "Secretary Chu, are you hungry? Why don't you sit down and have a bite?" Bai Hua invited. Secretary Chu laughed. "I've already eaten outside. I'm here to give you a toast." "Oh, why is Uncle Chu doing this today? If you want to drink, let's drink together." "Don't mention toast," Lin Jingwei teased. Unexpectedly, Secretary Chu's expression changed. "It's not the first time we've eaten and drunk together, so it doesn't matter. But today is the first time we've met, little Qin. I have to give you a toast." Some of the smarter ones had already realized that the highlight of today's meal was finally coming. The elders had come over for a visit. Perhaps it was because of the relationship between Qin Guang and Jin Shiyue, but Secretary Chu was still in his prime. Although he was a secretary, he was actually a rising star in the domestic political world. There must be a deeper meaning behind his toast. Sure enough, as he spoke, he first poured himself a full glass and then filled up Qin Guang's glass. He said, "This is my first toast. I would like to thank Chief Instructor Qin on behalf of my good-for-nothing nephew for teaching him." After saying that, he drained the glass in one gulp. Qin Guang was at a loss, but he also drank a glass of wine. He had already drunk 3 liters today. Although he was a little tipsy, there was no need to worry about it. The others paid attention to the words Chief Instructor Qin that Secretary Chu had said. It was deafening. Other than being an internet celebrity, what other identity did he have for Secretary Chu to call him Chief Instructor? And he was deliberately toasting him? Moreover, Secretary Chu's nephew had received the grace of being taught by him? Secretary Chu, this. Qin Guang didn't quite understand what was going on. Seeing that Qin Guang didn't understand, Secretary Chu slapped his forehead. "Hey, look at my brain. I forgot to introduce him. My nephew was one of the students who received special training from Chief Instructor Qin in Shun the day before yesterday. He also successfully obtained some special abilities. Secretary Chu didn't make it clear, but Qin Guang understood instantly. So that was it. Secretary Chu's nephew was one of his believers. Then we should have a drink, Qin Guang laughed. In fact, Secretary Chu felt quite wronged. He thought that his nephew was one of the top students among the outstanding students. He would definitely be able to chat with Qin Guang for a while and know his name. With such a special surname like Chu, Qin Guang should be able to remember it with just a slight hint from him. What he didn't know was that Qin Guang only cared about the first batch of students who were believers, including Li Big Mouth. As for the subsequent batches of students, he would leave immediately after he was done with his charlatan. He wouldn't care about their names. Brother Guang, chief instructor? What the hell? Lin Jingwei couldn't help but ask. Qin Guang waved his hand casually. It's not a big deal. I just gave a few lessons to everyone in Shun's special training camp. Shun's special training camp. Chief instructor. Most of the people present were knowledgeable. They knew how special Shun's special training camp was in the national military. Otherwise, Tan Zhaohua, an old general of the same generation as Jin Jiang, wouldn't be personally in charge of it. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Bai Hua, the leader of the younger generation, felt ashamed of his inferiority. The chief instructor of Shun was not a position that could be gilded with gold for 2 or 3 generations. Not to mention the military rank, it was impossible to be an ordinary instructor in Shun if one did not have the ability to convince the masses and was capable enough. Every ordinary instructor there would be an absolute elite in the military. At the very least they would be the leader of a special forces team like Xuelin. What's more, Qin Guang's title had the word chief in front of it. On the other side, Secretary Chu spoke again. Chief Instructor Qin, you can't treat this as a small matter. My second toast is a toast to Chief Instructor Qin as a former soldier and now a politician for your contributions to the country. What you've done in Shun's special training camp may be something you did casually, but to us, it's a great debt of gratitude. With that he drained his cup in one gulp. Everyone felt a sense of loss. Their guess had been confirmed. He was indeed Shun's chief instructor. This third cup is a toast to you, Head Instructor Qin, on behalf of the senior leaders. Everyone at the table was completely speechless. What had happened at the banquet tonight was completely beyond their common sense. It was understandable that the 3 elders, Jin, Jiang and Tan, had come to toast, but why did the other elders who hadn't come solemnly ask Secretary Chu to toast on their behalf? Even if he really was Shun's chief instructor, he couldn't possibly receive such treatment. That's right, Secretary Chu seemed to have vaguely revealed some more information. What course was Qin Guang's chief instructor at Shun? What kind of ability did he have as a so-called internet celebrity? What did he teach that could be considered as a great debt of gratitude? More and more question marks slowly emerged in everyone's hearts, but Secretary Chu's toast ended here. Qin Guang and he drained their cups again and Secretary Chu bowed and left. Brother Guang, if you confess, I'll be lenient. If you resist, I'll be strict. What kind of chief instructor are you in Shun? Lin Jingwei couldn't hold it in anymore. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. Qin Guang scratched his head and stuffed a mouthful of food into his mouth to suppress the alcohol. He had drunk a little too much today. Nothing much. I just teach you how to play darts. Darts. The other second and third generations at the table who were listening intently to the conversation between the two were confused. Some liked to watch sports channels or were well informed. They knew that Qin Guang had recently won the World Darts Championship, but what did this have to do with military special training? A mere champion of the World Darts Championship was nothing in their circle. Seeing Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua's expressions of disbelief, Qin Guang nodded again. His darts. I don't understand. I really don't understand. Lin Jingwei shook his head. It's fine if you don't understand. You'll understand when you grow up. Qin Guang patted his head. Get lost. After the 3 old men and Secretary Chu's argument, the atmosphere at the table suddenly changed. No one dared to respond to Xin Yuliang's relentless pursuit. They didn't immediately throw away their moral integrity and try to curry favor with him. After all, everyone was a person of status. However, their tone and attitude did become much more respectful. It was so much so that he seemed to be treating Qin Guang, Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua on the same level. Qin Guang was now also a smart person. He was just a passerby in this circle, but there was no need to make things difficult for Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua in the future. So he was amiably joking with these people. At the table there was only one person who couldn't sit still. Xin Yuliang even felt that it would have been better for him to just follow Bai Hua's instructions and simply leave. Later on he would think of a way to make up for this little bit of conflict and filth. That way he wouldn't be stuck between a rock and a hard place. He tried to talk to Qin Guang several times, but every time Qin Guang's eyes drifted to him, it was as if he was looking at air. Qin Guang's eyes would swish to the side, leaving him unable to say a word. Finally, Xin Yuliang had waited for a golden opportunity. Using the high school girl Tong Xiaoming as an opportunity to ask Qin Guang to be her spokesperson, Qin Guang said in a half-joking, half-serious tone, "Well, don't worry about being the chief instructor. I may not go back, but I'm afraid I'll have to continue being an internet celebrity. If anyone needs a spokesperson you can look for me. I'll give you 20% off." Xin Yuliang hurriedly replied, "Okay. It's hard to say for other companies, but Brother Qin Guang, my online company can only ask you to be their spokesperson. Now that you're so famous, it's not wrong to say that you're an A-list celebrity. You used to be our company's gold medal driver. They say that a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Now that our online company is asking you to be their spokesperson, it's a match made in heaven." Perhaps it was because he was too excited, but Xin Yuliang's voice was too loud, covering the voices of everyone else at the table. This time Qin Guang finally couldn't ignore him. He slowly turned his face and stared straight at the person sitting next to him. Xin Yuliang's heart was beating very fast. If Qin Guang accepted his joke, tonight's conflict would be over. Then, under his nervous gaze, Qin Guang gently took a breath and said, "Except for you." Xin Yuliang's heart tightened and he said awkwardly, "No, I mean I don't want to talk to you." Xin Yuliang's heart tightened and he said awkwardly, "No, I mean I don't want to talk to you." Hearing those words, Xin Yuliang's face instantly turned red. Qin Guang's words had thoroughly swept his face to the ground. Tong Xiaoming, the little girl, couldn't help but cover her mouth and let out a soft snort. This made Xin Yuliang feel even more embarrassed and he wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. "Qin Guang." He clenched his teeth and wanted to say something harsh, but he recalled everything that had happened before, and the harsh words could only be stuck in his throat and he couldn't say it out. "Don't look at me so fiercely. As the old saying goes, there must be a cause and effect, right? I didn't offend you and we're not the same kind of people. You don't have to hurt yourself to repair your relationship with me. It's really not necessary. Look at you, you look like you want to cry. I feel sorry for you. Well, let's go in the future. You go your own way and I'll go my own way. Isn't that good? Tonight, let's eat and drink to our heart's content and then leave. Everyone, it's still very nice to meet everyone today. In the future when you come to 5 Capital, remember to find me. You can't miss a meal. I'll leave first." Qin Guang said, suddenly got up, lifted his leg and quickly walked out of the door. Others thought that he was annoyed with Xin Yuliang, but only Lin Jingwei felt that Qin Guang's actions were abnormally agile and then stood up. "Brother Guang, wait for me." Qin Guang's voice came from afar. "I'll wait for you, my ass. I want to go back to 5 Capital." Lin Jingwei continued to shout, "There are no flights tonight. I'll leave tomorrow. I'll drive back." "You still want to drive after drinking 4 liters of wine? Are you trying to go to heaven?" Their voices traveled further and further, and finally, Qin Guang was pulled back by Lin Jingwei's clothes. "Damn it, don't pull me," Qin Guang said softly, suppressing his voice. Lin Jingwei refused to let go. "Brother Guang, don't run away. Can you help me? If I don't drag Qin Yu out, I won't be able to complete my mission. You don't know the situation of Brother Bai's grandfather and us old men. Brother Xiao Bai's marriage is an important matter that must be raised to the national level. *CKU, it's none of my business. Besides, I can pretend once, but can I pretend forever? I can't do anything about national affairs, okay? I can't do anything about the universe, okay? I can't make a Qin Yu out of a rock, okay?" Qin Guang was speechless. How could this bastard's brain be so smart? He ran away so suddenly, but he still caught him. No, that's not what I mean. You just need to help me deal with it one more time. Be more ruthless, be more direct, and let Brother Bai completely give up on this idea. I'll also be able to give an explanation to the old men. As a brother, I've never begged you before. This time I'm really begging you. Don't beg me. It's useless. What are you two talking about? Just then Bai Hua's voice came from the corner behind the two of them. Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei were startled. Damn it, Brother Bai, why did you chase after them without saying a word? You scared the two of them to death. If you leave, how can we eat in the youth hall? Are you going to leave poor Shen Yuliang alone there with his heart broken into pieces? Chapter 571. No, nothing. Lin Jingwei cowered, not knowing what to say. On the other hand, Qin Guang forcefully put on an aloof expression and asked, "The dinner inside?" Bai Hua waved his hand indifferently. "Ignore them, it doesn't matter. I feel uncomfortable eating in the youth hall. They will feel more comfortable if we leave." That's right. Lin Jingwei laughed. He just wanted to get rid of Bai Hua as soon as possible, otherwise he would be inexplicably panicking. Unexpectedly, Bai Hua changed the topic and put his arm around Lin Jingwei's shoulder. "Fine, I won't ask what you two were arguing about. Let's go somewhere else to drink." "Why do we have to drink?" Lin Jingwei tried to struggle, but Bai Hua's grip only tightened. "Isn't it all because of you? I asked you to meet someone but you kept making excuses. You were the one who brought that person to me and now I'm haggard because of you. If you don't drink with me, then who am I supposed to drink with?" Bai Hua pushed Lin Jingwei forward. Qin Guang took the opportunity and said, "Then you two go drink. I drank too much today and feel dizzy, so I won't go." How could Lin Jingwei let Qin Guang go? He knew that Bai Hua would definitely pester him about Qin Yu's matter, and if he let Qin Guang go tonight, Qin Guang would return to the 5 capitals tomorrow morning. At that time, Lin Jingwei wouldn't even be able to call for help. So, today is the day, don't even think about escaping. Bai Hua pulled Lin Jingwei and Lin Jingwei pulled Qin Guang. "Brother Guang, do you think I don't know how much you can drink? Don't pretend you can't go back to Wujing tonight anyway, let's go." How could Qin Guang not know what Lin Jingwei was thinking? He cursed him in his heart. "Brother Guang, let's go. Look at my sincere eyes. Don't you have the slightest bit of soft-heartedness?" In front of Bai Hua, Lin Jingwei couldn't say anything, but the teary look in his eyes was really pitiful. For some reason, Qin Guang unexpectedly nodded his head. His heart had softened. All right, stop pulling. If you keep pulling, my clothes will be torn apart." Seeing that Qin Guang had finally relented, Lin Jingwei felt relieved. He was so excited that he almost jumped 3 feet high. Let's go. Let's go to Ino." Inua was quite famous among the 2nd and 3rd generations in Yanjin. The young people of Lin Jingwei's generation liked to go to Inua when they had nothing to do. That place was more private, and the guests there were either rich or noble. It was also relatively safe and it was not easy to get into trouble. Let's drink until the world turns upside down. At this moment, Bai Hua no longer had the arrogance of the vice president of Tianjin Energy Group. With Lin Jingwei and Qin Guang, he had returned to the appearance of a young man. In the largest private room of Yi Nua Club, Tianhe No. 1, a crisp and melodious song was lingering. It was the famous song Leaving Island Song by Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage. This ancient Chinese song had 3 twists and turns, and it was extremely difficult to sing. However, if it was sung well, it could be melodious and lingering. At this moment, the song in this private room was exactly the same as the original song by the left and right hand. It was so beautiful that people couldn't extricate themselves from it. Fortunately, Inua's decorations were high-end. Even if the song was loud inside, no one could hear it from the outside. Otherwise, even in a high-end club like Inua, there would definitely be people peeping to see if it was really the left and right hand. At the end of the song, thunderous applause came from Tianhe No. 1 private room. 7 or 8 girls were clapping desperately. Sister Shirue sang well. This is what you call a reproduction of the original song. Why do I feel like it's better than listening to it on a CD? A beautiful and charming girl was so excited that her face was flushed. That's right. A few days ago, that music critic called Feng something actually dared to insinuate that Sister Shirue and Sister Yage were lip-syncing. Let him listen to it and let him know who's better. Another little girl gnashed her teeth. Jin Shirue put down the microphone and glared at the person. Forget it. Let others say it. We know what's going on. Yage, don't you think so? Jiang Yage wasn't as kind as Jin Shirue. Instead, she glared at her fiercely. This won't do. Next time when we have a meet and greet, we must have a good talk with him and sing a cappella for him. If he still refuses to let go, we'll let him know who's better. Your temper is still so bad. When can you change it? Jean Shuiwei couldn't do anything to her. Sister Shuiwei, stop talking about Sister Yage. When are you going to call brother-in-law over to show everyone? Although we can always see him on TV or on the internet, we have never seen him in person. It's too much. We sisters haven't even checked him and you've already been taken away. Jiang Yage also egged her on. That's right. Qin Guang is just a student. Now it's summer vacation. Why is he as busy as a national leader? Does he even have you, Sister Shuiwei, as his girlfriend? Jean Shuiwei gave Jiang Yage a hard look. She knew that she was deliberately making trouble. It was clear that she was thinking about Qin Guang all day long, but she used herself as a cover. You go find him yourself. How can I overstep my authority? Otherwise I'll be scolded by others for a whole year. Well, although he is a student, he also has his own business to do. He may not be as leisurely as us artists. In the future we will meet sooner or later. There's no hurry. When saying this, Jean Shuiwei was thinking in her heart. When would she be able to be a cover? In addition, Qin Guang, where are you now? What are you doing? The same question was in Jiang Yage's heart, but the two of them didn't care for long. It was rare for them to have a vacation after the concert. How could they not have a good rest? What? Tianhe number 1 has been occupied? Standing in the lobby of the Yinhua Club, Bai Hua stared at the lobby manager in front of him. Under Bai Hua's gaze, the lobby manager's temples broke out in cold sweat. This matter was also his fault. In the afternoon, Bai Hua did call to reserve Tianhe number 1, but in the evening, Jiang Yage and Jean Shuiwei came with a group of sisters and also asked for Tianhe number 1. At that time, the manager couldn't afford to offend either side, so he could only push the matter to Bai Hua, saying that it was Bai Hua who made the decision. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yage said carelessly that Bai Hua went to dinner with the elders tonight. How could he come to sing? The poor lobby manager accidentally found out something he shouldn't have known, so he took the opportunity to give the private room to Jiang Yage. Who would have thought that Bai Hua would still come? What should they do? The lobby manager obviously knew some inside information. For example, Bai Hua had once been deeply in love with Jean Shuiwei. Now Jean Shuiwei had publicly announced that she had a boyfriend. If he were to lure Bai Hua over, it would be like a bolt of lightning crashing into the ground. If the two families were to have a conflict, perhaps nothing would happen to them, but as the main culprit he would definitely die a horrible death. At this time Qin Guang, who was next to him, said, Tianhe number 1 is gone. Why don't we go to Dihe number 1? Lin Jingwei asked curiously, how do you know about Dihe number 1? Qin Guang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. I really don't want to chat with you. I'm afraid I'll lower my standards. The lobby manager saw an opportunity and quickly said, yes, Dihe number 1 is really there. The two private rooms are about the same, otherwise, no. Bai Hua was still stubborn. Lin Jingwei also tried to persuade him, come on, it's rare for us brothers to come out for a drink. Don't get upset over such a small matter. In the end, Bai Hua still gave in. The three of them occupied such a large space, so there was nothing to be uncomfortable about. No one asked for a song. Bai Hua's purpose here was to drink and get drunk. Lin Jingwei was responsible for accompanying, and Qin Guang was responsible for decorating. Qin Guang also tried to ask for a song, but Lin Jingwei noticed it in time and stopped him. The two of them sat at the table and drank without any prelude. Qin Guang, on the other hand, sat on the sofa and played with his phone. He didn't bother with his Weibo account for a long time. His message bar was almost full of fans' comments and private messages. He quietly turned his back to the two of them and looked at the pictures sent by his female fans. His heart was a little restless, but drowsiness gradually came over him. It had been about 30 to 40 minutes since the start of the dinner, and 3 liters of wine had already gone down their throats. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long fallen to the ground. Even Qin Guang, who had refined his wine tank in the sea of moments, found it a little difficult. The after effects of high-quality wine were not small. Just as he was about to close his eyes, Lin Jingwei finally left Bai Hua alone. He said that he had to go to the toilet and desperately winked at Qin Guang before leaving. Qin Guang pretended not to see it. After leaving, Lin Jingwei took out his phone and texted Qin Guang, "Brother, I beg you, I'm really begging you. Just this once, don't do it again. I swear." This was not the end. Lin Jingwei simply told Qin Guang about the matter of Bai Hua's grandfather and the other old men. Qin Guang found out that many of those old men who were still alive owed the Bai family's old man a favor. I forget it. Qin Guang also made up his mind. In any case, he had played the role of Qin Yu once and twice. He didn't want Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei to give up. This matter couldn't be dragged on forever. He could hide from the monk, but he couldn't hide from the temple. He might as well put on another act and completely break Bai Hua's heart. Who told him to first do something shameful and sell Patek Philippe? He dug a hole and buried it himself. He had to make up for his own mistakes. Therefore he also apologized to Bai Hua, saying that he had some urgent matters to attend to and had to go out for a while. As soon as Qin Guang went out, he was pulled to the side in private room number 2 by Lin Jingwei. He didn't know when this bastard informed Sister Hua, but Sister Hua, who was known as the Ghost Hand of Beijing, was already in the private room, sharpening her knife and waiting. Lin Jingwei pushed Qin Guang into Sister Hua's arms, put his palms together and begged, "Brother Guang, I owe you a lifetime of kindness for today. I really have to rely on you. My life is in your hands. I'm going back to Tianhe number 1 now. Don't run away. Otherwise go watch the legal news tomorrow. I promise to jump from the signal tower of China's TV station for you to see." After saying that, Lin Jingwei turned around and ran away, leaving Qin Guang alone in private room number 2, staring at Sister Hua, who was grinning and full of fighting spirit. "Wait. Let me calm down. Please give me 3 seconds to think about it. Lighter. Mommy, lighter. My scalp. Where do you live, Sister Hua? I'll visit you someday to thank you. You want to beat me up, right? Dream on." About half an hour later, Sister Hua looked at her perfect artwork with satisfaction. She kept repeating one word over and over again: beautiful. The effect was perfect, even better than the last time. Thanks to Qin Guang's clean bald head, it was much easier to take care of the wig than the last time. A person's appearance, other than facial features, accounted for at least 30% of the effective hairstyle. The current Qin Guang, no, the current Qin Yu, had a more natural hairstyle than the last time. Coupled with Sister Hua's exquisite facial features, she gave off the vibe of a European supermodel. Cool, no, it should be called cool and elegant today. She was cold and elegant with a hint of charm, and there was no lack of heroism in her charm. As long as she stood there, she would naturally become the focus of the crowd. Walking on the street, any talent scout with a good eye would be able to notice her at first glance. The returning supermodel, language genius and business elite Qin Yu had made a comeback. Sister Hua chuckled, This is perfect. Miss Qin, oh no, Mr. Qin, I, Sister Hua, have traveled all over the world. I've done at least 1,000 if not 8 or 10,000 times, but I've never met someone like you. You're a little handsome when you're a man, but after changing your makeup your beauty soars to the sky. It's such a pity that you weren't born a girl." As she spoke, she shoved the mirror in front of Qin Guang. Qin Guang cursed in his heart, "Girl, my ass. Your whole family is female." He took the mirror and didn't want to complain anymore. If it wasn't for the fact that Sister Hua was sweating profusely for the past half an hour, he would have used his hands to wipe off all the makeup on his face. "I'm really going to call the police. *CKU, I'm going to be the bad guy today to make that Bai guy give up. You made me look so coquettish that I'm almost *king obsessed with myself. Oh no, my arm. Forget it, I'll just chop it off. How is it? I've used my trump card today. Little Qin. Oh no, Mr. Qin, are you satisfied?" Sister Hua looked at Qin Guang eagerly, hoping that he would praise her. Qin Guang stared straight at her. "I'm so satisfied that I want to fight you." Sister Hua clapped her hands. "Oh, Miss Qin, I really can't talk about your voice. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you could change your voice? Oh, this sister's feet are about to go limp from the sweetness." That's right, the considerate and gentle Miss Luli didn't need Qin Guang's help this time. She took the initiative to give him the perfect voice of a goddess. It was still her own voice. Qin Guang silently shed a couple of caddies of tears in his heart. "Miss Luli, you're so considerate. I thank you for your whole family." On the other hand, after Lin Jingwei returned to He number 1, he casually said that Qin Guang had something urgent to attend to and had to leave first, so he would drink with him slowly. After waiting for a few more minutes, Lin Jingwei pretended to play on WeChat and slammed the table. "Brother Bai. Sister Qin, you finally said something. She said she'll come over later." Bai Hua's drunkenness was instantly washed away and he stood up from the sofa. Where is she? I'll go to the door to pick her up. Lin Jingwei hurriedly stopped him, cold sweat dripping down his back. He didn't know if he didn't try, but now that he did, he was shocked. Brother Bai was really possessed. Brother Bai, calm down. She'll be here in at least half an hour. Chapter 572. In Tianhe No. 1's private room, a group of young girls sang happily. Jin Shiyue and Xianxia took a break when they were tired from singing. A group of young and beautiful girls gathered together. Although the others' singing skills and image were slightly inferior to Jin Shiyue and Xianxia, they were still the cream of the crop when compared to the ordinary people's circle. Everyone had their own fun when they sang and came on stage. Sister Shiyue, let's find an excuse to go to the 5 capitals in 2 days? Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue whispered in the corner of the private room. Jin Shiyue was moved, but she couldn't show it on her face. She only smiled and teased, if you really miss him, give him a call. In any case, I don't mind a good sister like you. Jiang Yage spat at her. If he heard your words, I wonder how happy he would be. What, Sister Shiyue? Could it be that he wants to catch us both in one fell swoop? Jin Shiyue looked at her excited look and sighed in her heart. She couldn't help but pour cold water on her. But I don't think so. I feel that he doesn't want to catch us in one fell swoop. He wants to avoid everyone, right? That seems to be the case. Ai. Jiang Yage looked gloomy and sighed slightly. When Jin Shiyue saw her desolate look, her heart twisted even more. If I had known this would happen, I would have let you have this fake relationship with him back then. You have a cheerful personality. If you take more initiative with this reputation, he will definitely not be able to resist you sooner or later. Jiang Yage shook her head repeatedly. That won't do. My grandfather is not like your grandfather. He will definitely rush to the 5 capitals and twist his head off. It's just that Sister Shiyue has wronged you. Jin Shiyue smiled. What's wrong with it? Isn't he also my friend? The way things are now is pretty good. There are no more flies around, so Brother Bai Hua won't be in a difficult position. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's right, Sister Shiyue, you're the best to me. Jiang Yage became happy again and hugged Jin Shiyue with a smile. Feeling Jiang Yage's dependence and trust in her, a faint sadness lingered in Jin Shiyue's heart. She couldn't help but ask herself if she was really a good sister in her current state. It was indeed Jiang Yage who confessed to Qin Guang first, but now she was the first one. At least nominally she was tied to Qin Guang. If her heart was really as calm as still water, perhaps she would be the one who suffered a loss. But my heart isn't so open and above board. Jin Shiyue felt ashamed. She felt that she had let down Jiang Yage's trust. She also knew that with her family's financial situation, once their relationship was announced, it wouldn't be easy to take it back. That was why she had thought of ways to prevent her grandfather and Qin Guang from meeting. She was afraid that Qin Guang would directly pass her grandfather's test. If that happened, it wouldn't be easy for her to not make it real. She sighed heavily in her heart and hugged Jiang Yage's waist again. She silently thought that if it really came to that in the future, she would have to bear the bad reputation and become a female celebrity who liked the new and hated the old. She would have to cut off her wrist. When that time came, she would take the initiative to break up with the excuse that both of us were busy with our careers and neglected to see each other. In the end, Qin Guang couldn't stay in the second private room for too long. After being forced to change into a neutral shirt, he was pushed out by Sister Hua. Sister Hua had originally prepared a master-grade dress from the Milan Fashion Week for him, but after being beaten up by him, Sister Hua didn't struggle anymore. Standing outside the door, Qin Guang looked at the number plate of the room opposite him. He took a deep breath and squeezed out an awkward smile. He turned around and walked forward. Standing in front of the door of the first room, he opened the door and strode in. His movements were smooth. At the same time, he kept recalling the many cliché TV dramas in his mind. He tried to figure out how those emotionless female characters rejected people with an attitude that hurt them to the bone. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel sorry for the pathetic amount of TV dramas he watched. The only option in his mind was Abbess Miju. Seriously, the old man didn't watch soap operas at all. Bai Hua, who had already stopped drinking, was waiting on the sofa with a face full of anticipation. When Qin Guang opened the door, he stared at the door. In the next moment he stood up straight as if springs had been added to his legs. His whole body was as stiff as a piece of cured meat that had been hung on the beam to dry for an entire winter. His eyes instantly became misty as he stared at the tall and beautiful figure at the door. Under the illumination of the bright lights in the private room, her body seemed to have a strange glow, but it also turned her into a black hole, swallowing Bai Hua's gaze and mind bit by bit. His breathing became faster and faster and his heartbeat became heavier and heavier. 10,000 little rabbits were galloping in his chest, and a 10,000-ton hammer was ruthlessly smashing into Bai Hua's heart. Her expression was as cold as ice, but in Bai Hua's eyes, it was like the dimpled smile of the prettiest girl in middle school in his childhood. Bai Hua felt like he was possessed. He shouted in his heart over and over again, "I didn't guess wrong, I really fell in love with Qinyu at first sight." Perhaps no one would believe it, but as a proud son of heaven of Yanjing, how could I be so melodramatic? Even in Cambridge, a place full of heroes, when I was only 16 years old, I was able to make countless seniors and teachers exclaim in admiration. Bai Hua, the absolutely calm thinker from the East. How could a person like me fall in love with a strange girl at first sight? This was only the second time we met, but in his mind, it was as if he had gone back in time to when he was 12 or 13 years old. I really did confirm a mysterious theory. The calmer a person was, the easier it was to lose control when they went crazy. Bai Hua clenched his fists tightly. His mind was filled with random thoughts, but his mind was blank. In fact, the effects of Lu Li's godly hypnosis had long since passed. There were many reasons why things had turned out like this. Bai Hua had hidden the pain of losing Jin Shuiwei in his heart. He was a conceited and stubborn person, so he didn't want to easily show his disappointment and frustration. He could only grit his teeth and endure it. He really needed a new target to divert his attention and to vent his yearning for love that had nowhere else to go. But what made him feel the most despair was that, with his high standards, even those glamorous celebrities would be compared to Jin Shuiwei. The more they compared, the more despair he felt. That was until he met Qinyu, a talented and arrogant miraculous girl like him. Then he fell into Lu Li's trap. Originally things would have been fine, but Qin Guang had displayed a high level of attainment in Arabic. Under the influence of the hypnosis, Qin Yu's image in Bai Hua's heart was constantly perfected. Not only did he not resist the aftereffects, but he also deepened the obsession in his heart again and again, venting all the pain and loneliness of losing Jin Shuiwei on the perfect goddess who had descended from the sky. It was said that the other side of a genius was paranoia, and Bai Hua had interpreted this concept to the extreme. The more he couldn't see her, the more he wanted to see her. Now that they had finally reunited, she was even more perfect than before. Qin Guang had goosebumps all over his body from Bai Hua's gaze. Fine, I'll endure it. After all, poor brother Bai was a victim of Lu Li's godly hypnosis. But little Lin, why the hell are you looking at me like that when you're high? I can't take it anymore. My stomach acid is going to go out of control again. Qin Guang covered his mouth and coughed twice, reminding Lin Jingwei to restrain himself. Lin Jingwei finally shook his head and came back to his senses. Fine, he also had goosebumps all over his body. He hurriedly pushed Bai Hua's back from the back. Bai Hua's misty eyes finally regained their clarity. His face was flushed red as he walked over. Hello, Miss Qinyu. The next second, Qinyu turned into Abbess Miju. She raised her head slightly and looked at the ceiling at an arrogant 45-degree angle. Her cold eyes were like a waterfall as she looked at Bai Hua indifferently. Not good at all. Lin Jingwei keeps telling me that you want to see me, so I'm really not good at all. Please look at yourself in the mirror. I really don't have any feelings for you. Please stop this pointless harassment. At this moment, thanks to more than 10 versions of the great performing artist's perfect performance of Abbess Miju, all the great female homeroom teachers, female math teachers, and female politics teachers, Qin Guang's originally terrible acting skills suddenly exploded. At this moment, Qinyu was like the incarnation of a female dean. Her expression was cold, arrogant, and her eyes were filled with extreme annoyance and contempt. Even Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind her, inexplicably thought of his high school homeroom teacher, Teacher Ma. But it was useless. Bai Hua wasn't angry at all. He actually blushed. He scratched his head awkwardly and said in a simple and honest manner, that, If Lin Jingwei has caused any trouble for you, Miss Chen, I would like to express my sincere apologies. Please don't worry, Miss Chen. I really didn't mean to make things difficult for you. I really didn't mean anything by it. Currently, I'm in charge of the Middle East business at Tianjin Energy. The last negotiation was also perfectly resolved with your help, Miss Chen. Tianjin Group really needs Miss Chen to provide translation support. I've asked to meet you several times because I'm really thirsty for talent. Lin Jingwei's mouth opened wider and wider. His brain felt like it was being struck by lightning. Brother Bai Hua, you're going against the heavens. I've known you for almost 20 years and I've never seen you so cowardly. How can your brain work so fast? You've come up with the translation requirements in the blink of an eye. Are you going to use your devilish brain to pick up girls? But this girl is a guy. Even Qin Guang was dumbfounded. How can this be tolerated? He really couldn't continue acting. His mouth was slightly open in a daze. Damn, the old man had been in the field of shamelessness for more than 10 years. He had always thought that his skin was so thick that it could destroy heaven and earth. Never in a million years would he have thought that Brother Bai Hua was actually at the level of creating heaven and earth. The old man admitted defeat. Chapter 573. This was not the end of it. Bai Hua made an extremely gentlemanly gesture to lead him forward, but did not touch Qin Guang at all, showing extreme aristocratic etiquette. Qin Guang slightly turned his face away. Miji Shirtai had a bad start, what should he do now? At this time, Liuli's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Let me tell you a piece of good news. Within 24 hours, the world within the heavenly line cup that you want will arrive. Damn. Don't. I'm not mentally prepared at all. Can we change the time? I'm not in the right state right now. What do you think? What did it mean when it rains, it pours? Roughly speaking, Qin Guang's current state was that he was wearing women's clothing, had a female voice, and was playing the role of a goddess. Yet he had to face the completely impolite world within the cup. The painful lesson from the language master's cup last time had taught him not to take Liuli's so-called 24 hours seriously. If he did not agree, it would be 3 seconds later. He began to panic. The strongest cross-dressing man in history? This was not good, right? With a stiff face, Qin Guang sat on the sofa with a heavy heart. Bai Hua was very attentive and asked him this and that. What do you like to drink? Orange juice. Bright. Not talking. Don't like any of them? Wang Laoji. Jia Duobao. Ejing. Oh, I understand. You must like to drink with Evian. Or everlasting ice spring. Lin Jingwei, who was watching from the side, was completely dumbfounded. In just 5 short minutes, the image of Bai Hua, which he had spent 20 years building up in his heart as a proud son of heaven, had been shattered like an ice sculpture in the summer. He felt ashamed and covered his face in extreme embarrassment. He only felt that his life was as lonely as snow. He could only helplessly watch a genius of a generation, a genius of Yanjing, and the most famous genius of China in the past 20 years fall to such a state. It really made one sigh and only felt that fate was playing with people. However, Qin Guang's Miji Shirtai's golden body had already been broken, and his mind was filled with thoughts of the impending arrival of the Heaven's Thread Cup. How could he be in the mood to continue acting with Bai Hua? But since he was already here and his goal of making him give up had not been achieved, he could not simply leave. Qin Guang couldn't come up with an idea in such a short time, and he couldn't keep up the act any longer. So he just kept a straight face and ignored Bai Hua. Annoyed, Qin Guang waved his hand impatiently. Mr. Bai, I would like to sit quietly for a while. If you really want me to provide translation services for your company, then please act like a professional. You're really bothering me. Bai Hua was taken aback for a moment, but he immediately snapped out of his daze and was overjoyed. I knew that my efforts wouldn't go to waste. She must have felt my sincerity. If she really didn't have any feelings for me, she wouldn't have hinted at me to change the way we interact. I'm really stupid. I'm confused because I'm too concerned. She's such a unique woman in the world. Why would she like this kind of cliché? She must be like me, pursuing a soul mate who can resonate with both talent and spirit. That's fine. As long as she's willing to wake me up, it means that I still have a chance. As expected of Bai Hua, he instantly adjusted his state of mind. He no longer jumped up and down around Qin Guang. Instead, he obediently sat to the side and seriously thought about how to arrange a suitable position for Qin Yu within the Tianjin group. It couldn't be too low. She must be as proud and arrogant as I am. A low starting point would be an insult to her. But it also couldn't be too high. The higher the position, the more burdensome the work would be. She must have her own career. Completely tying her to the Tianjin group would definitely conflict with her own perfect career plans. What should I do? Bai Hua tugged at Lin Jingwei's arm again, sipping the red wine in his hand as he pondered deeply. Lin Jingwei was shocked by Bai Hua's state of deep thought. It's here. Brother Bai Hua's legendary thinker state. 8 years ago, when the relationship between a certain country and China was at its peak, it was in this state that Bai Hua came up with the idea of having China participate in the construction and operation of a certain country's high-speed railway. This not only resolved the conflict between the two countries, but also created tens of billions of dollars worth of foreign exchange. At that time, Bai Hua was only 15 years old. Now he was going to show off his true ability to pick up girls. Brother Guang, can you still hold on? Lin Jingwei secretly looked at Qin Guang, but he was so scared by Qin Guang's troubled look that he almost peed his pants. Brother, you're not really thinking about this, are you? Don't scare me. If I really play with fire, won't I become a sinner for all eternity? How can I face Sun Xiaoxuan, Grandpa Bai, the party and the country? Most importantly, I would definitely be ganged up on by all the old men and be beaten to death by the mixed old age style. If the current Qin Guang knew that his impatient attempt to force Bai Hua to retreat had been interpreted by the other party as a hint, "Don't be like this, what do you have to do for me to like you?" he would definitely vomit 3 liters of blood. However, the current Qin Yu was not in the mood to think about anything else. She was busy thinking about how to deal with the Heaven's Line Cup. Compared to the completely unreasonable Heaven's Line Cup, the Heaven's Line Cup was at least a little earlier notice. So, as long as Qin Guang guaranteed that he would think about something 24/7, he would have a high chance of successfully entering the Heaven's Line Cup. What did he need the most right now? If it wasn't for the incident with Wenwen and the hot pot restaurant, the acting world would undoubtedly be his top priority. But right now, what Qin Guang needed the most was to increase his strength as quickly as possible, especially to train his muscles to the point where he could practice the verdant red scroll. That's right, it's you. The strongest and most perfect body in history with no blind spots. After making up his mind, Qin Guang's heart calmed down a little, and he was no longer that nervous. He lightly curled up his thumb and middle finger. *CK, he quickly returned to his normal state, picked up a can of herbal tea and downed it. Then he stood up, intending to leave. But in his heart he was constantly thinking about the verdant red scroll's external techniques to train his body. "Miss Qin, what are you?" Bai Hua hurriedly turned around and asked. Qin Guang took a deep breath. "It's getting late. You wanted to see me and you've already seen me. If there's nothing else, let's part ways here." He didn't say goodbye. He simply didn't want to see her ever again. Hey, don't. That's right. Our Skyline Energy is planning to set up a Middle East international department, and we really need a consultant like you. That's right, a consultant. Bai Hua relied on his brain to dominate the business world, and he was able to come up with an idea in an emergency. Beside him, Lin Jingwei asked curiously, "Doesn't the Middle East International Department overlap with Brother Xiao Bai's business?" Bai Hua silently stepped on Lin Jingwei's foot. "There's no overlap. There's no overlap at all. Miss Chen, listen to my analysis. It's like this. Didn't you come back to China to start a business? But you must have a big platform. First of all, as long as you are willing to work as a consultant for Tianjin, you will be able to access first-hand information from all aspects of the domestic energy industry. This is completely in line with your personal career planning and needs. Moreover, the position of a consultant is relatively free, and it won't take up too much of your time. Most importantly, we're about to launch a comprehensive cooperation with the Middle East region, and we need a professional business talent like you who knows how to translate and negotiate. You'll definitely be able to show off your skills. I can give you a big platform, a high starting point, and a broad vision. This is a promise that I, Bai Hua, will make. It's also an official invitation from Skyline Energy Group." When he said these words, Bai Hua brought out his usual negotiation state, and there wasn't a trace of personal emotion in his eyes. If Qin Guang really was the female elite who returned home from China that Lin Jingwei had spouted, she really couldn't resist the temptation that Bai Hua was offering. Unfortunately, Bai Hua was destined to play the lute to a cow. Letting out a sigh, Qin Guang gently flipped his wig and continued, I'm indebted to Mr. Bai's love for me. But Mr. Bai, please don't mention this matter again. Learning Arabic was just a coincidence and I'm not focused on it. You found the wrong person. With that, Qin Guang turned around and left. He really lost to Bai Hua. Bai Hua hurriedly followed behind him. Why? Miss Qin, you only learned Arabic by chance and you're already at this level. You're a talent among talents. Being a consultant isn't troublesome at all. Qin Guang opened the door and stepped out. Seeing that Bai Hua still hadn't given up, he turned around again and looked at Bai Hua impatiently. Mr. Bai, the drunkard has ulterior motives. Why do we have to make things so clear? Qin Guang, cough cough cough. Although I, Qin Yu, don't have any background and I know how hard it is to start a business, I don't have the face to accept this kind of pie that falls from the sky. Mr. Bai, you're a dragon among men and I, Qin Yu, can't reach your level. This time Qin Guang's words were completely unpleasant to hear. Bai Hua's face instantly turned white. Even Jin Shuiwei had never rejected him in such a straightforward manner. He only felt waves of pain in his heart, and even his body almost couldn't stand steadily. His heart was empty as if he had fallen from the edge of a cliff, and what awaited him was an endless abyss. This made him feel even sadder and more despair than pursuing Jin Shuiwei without success. Why? I don't understand. You won't even give me the slightest chance? I'm really not anxious for success. I just want to understand a little more. Is such a small request so excessive? Bai Hua's pale voice revealed a heart-wrenching pain. Qin Guang sighed in his heart. He knew it was time to put an end to this matter. This brother of his had already become a demon, and it was better to let him suffer for a short time than to let him suffer for a long time. Mr. Bai, to be honest, I've lived abroad for many years. I'm sure Mr. Bai knows that it's a place that advocates freedom of love. Although I'm a woman, you've also seen my androgynous attire. What I like is actually a woman. I'm sorry, but I'm a lesbian. Just like Jiang Yage in the domestic left-hand and right-hand combination. Such a lovely and lively girl is the type of girl I really like. The most heartless way to reject a person. I'm a lesbian. Brother Bai Jingwei, why are you guys here? What are you talking about? Like me? What's going on? At this time, Jiang Yage's voice suddenly sounded from behind Qin Guang. This time not only did Bai Hua's face turn pale, but Qin Guang's face also looked as if someone had splashed white paint from head to toe. He definitely didn't look at the almanac when he went out today. He wanted to give himself a fierce slap. Of all the people I could have mentioned, I mentioned Jiang Yage. God, are you torturing me? Lin Jingwei was also completely stunned. He was secretly cheering for Qin Guang's legendary gay killer, but the person he had casually mentioned had unexpectedly walked out from Tianhe No. 1 private room behind him. She even heard his random excuse to reject Bai Hua. Lin Jingwei silently raised his head and looked at the golden lights in the corridor. Brother Guang, you must have been a great prophet in your past life, right? You must be Mediv who can transform into a crow, right? Can your mouth still be saved? Thus the whole world is in a tragedy. How are we going to act next? Can your *T2I acting still hold up? Lin Jingwei felt that the sky was about to collapse. Chapter 574. In the long corridor, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward because of Jiang Yage's words. Lin Jingwei had already given up. He already knew that Qin Guang's acting skills were lacking, but now that Jiang Yage had appeared, he had to say the wrong thing again. Now Qin Guang was faced with such a situation. He had to maintain the cold attitude towards Bai Hua, and at the same time he had to pretend to be happy to see Jiang Yage. After all, Jiang Yage was a famous artist in the country. Ordinary people would never have the chance to meet her. Apart from that, Qin Guang couldn't appear too excited because he was still playing the role of a cold goddess. In that case, he had to maintain his cold demeanor and then bring out an appropriate surprise. However, he had just rejected White Birch, so he had to control his emotions a little. Lin Jingwei's scalp went numb just thinking about the difficulty, but he couldn't provide any substantial help to Qin Guang. He could only clench his fists in his heart. Brother Guang. Come on. Brother, I support you. Bai Hua was still immersed in the pain of being rejected, but he didn't want to appear too down in the face of an acquaintance. He told himself in his heart, Bai Hua, pull yourself together. I should have thought of this setback before we met. If it wasn't for the fact that she had no interest in me, why would she keep refusing to see me? I must have performed too badly before, but it doesn't matter. Be brave. Bai Hua. Bring out your intelligence and reinvigorate yourself. Sincerity can split metal and stone. You can't give up. So what if she's gay? That's only because she hasn't met an outstanding man who can move her heart. Maybe she still thinks that I'm a hedonistic second generation who only covets her beauty, so it's understandable that she would feel disgusted. After all, even I find it hard to believe. Who would have thought that I would be so emotional on our first meeting? Time will give you the answer. Bai Hua, put away your arrogance and pride. Be like a real man and use your most sincere feelings to move her bit by bit. Bai Hua was indeed worthy of being called a proud son of heaven of his generation. His mind was filled with so many thoughts in an instant. After thinking so much, only a few seconds had passed. After a brief moment of surprise, Bai Hua put away the depression on his face and put on a pleasantly surprised smile. We came here to sing. Song of Solomon, are you in Tianhe number 1 private room? I was wondering who it was that stole my private room. If it was you, then I wouldn't be surprised at all. Bai Hua's fists were clenched tightly behind his back, but on his face he had completely regained his usual confident demeanor. Jiang Yage, on the other hand, was very sharp. As one of the best young performers, she was very familiar with the control of facial expressions. No matter how fast Bai Hua's expression changed, it couldn't be hidden from her eyes. This atmosphere isn't right, Jiang Yage thought to herself. But she wasn't in a hurry to point it out. Instead, she rolled her eyes and said, we all thought you guys weren't coming, so we asked for Tianhe number 1. But that's fine. Since it's rare to meet, let's sing together. And this is... Jiang Yage turned her attention to Qin Guang, who had his back turned to her and cast a puzzled look. Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei simultaneously turned their eyes to Qin Guang. Bai Hua's eyes revealed a complicated expression. As for Lin Jingwei, well, it was already completely empty. Xiao Linzi only thought that in the next second he would definitely be exposed. At this moment, Qin Guang was facing the most serious acting test of his life. Who was Jiang Yage? He was a movie, TV and singing superstar. She had appeared in so many movies and TV shows that her die-hard fans couldn't even remember them all. Although she was still very young, she was already a veteran in the performing arts. She was also very familiar with him, so how could he pretend to be a woman in front of her? Wasn't this showing off in front of an expert? If he wasn't careful, he would be exposed. Not to mention that I even set such a strange state for myself. Tears streamed down Qin Guang's face. Forget it, I'll just have to act as I can. If I'm exposed, then so be it. I'll do whatever I want. He silently turned around and looked at Jiang Yage, forcing a smile on his face. Unexpectedly at this time, Bai Hua took a step forward and said, Solomon, let me introduce you. This is Qin Yu, a friend of mine in Jingwei. She just came back from abroad to start her own business. She's your loyal fan. As Bai Hua said this, he winked at Qin Guang. His little eyes seemed to be showing off. Look at how considerate I am. I know you like Jiang Yage, so I helped you get close to her. Qin Guang felt a chill in his heart. Brother, I really didn't expect you to be so tolerant. This is the most ruthless homosexual killing. You just pinched your nose and accepted it all? In the past, Qin Guang never felt that those senior executives of big companies were anything special. They all had 2 eyes, 2 ears and 1 nose. I'm only worse than them because I wasn't born in a rich family. But today he was finally convinced. With such a high family background, Bai Hua was indeed someone who could do great things. His nerves were beyond imagination, and his emotional control was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. I'm convinced. What should I do? How should I say it? The corner of Qin Guang's mouth twitched. He laughed and said, Hee. When I was studying in North Carolina, I often listened to left and right-hand songs. They're very nice, hee. Jiang Yage looked at Qin Guang suspiciously. She subconsciously felt that this beautiful girl's expression gave her a taste of cheap. It was a bit similar to a certain person in her mind. That's impossible. This older sister is clearly a tall and elegant international supermodel. Why would I have this kind of misconception? Although she seems a bit embarrassed, it should be natural for fans to be reserved when they see their idol. But why do I feel that her smile is cheap? Is it because I miss him so much that I'm in a trance? Strange. Sure enough, as expected of an expert. With just a glance at Jiang Yage, she had doubts in her heart. But she quickly adjusted and patted her head. Nice to meet you, Qinyu. Come and sing with us. Lin Jingwei and Brother Bai's friends are our friends. As she spoke, she moved closer to Qin Guang and held Qin Guang's hand with a smile. She clasped it tightly between her breasts and pushed Qin Guang into Tianhe No. 1 private room. Although this Qinyu's hand isn't too thick, her muscles are so tight. Are these really a girl's hands? Jiang Yage's mind abruptly recalled a Hollywood action star that she had worked with in a movie before. The strange thought that popped up in her mind quickly disappeared. Indeed, some girls like to work out. They might not be as strong as men, but their muscles were just as firm. Qin Guang struggled. He didn't want to be pushed by Jiang Yage. He just wanted to run away, but... Fine, she clasped it too tightly. The delicate and cute Jiang Yage's chest was very firm. It was like a pair of pliers that tightly clamped Qin Guang's arm. Bai Hua saw the opportunity and felt that the situation had turned for the better. Although he was a little unwilling to see Jiang Yage holding Qinyu's arm, he didn't have any psychological barriers. He didn't believe that gay people could play any tricks. Yes, it's rare to see each other. Let's sing a few songs together. Bai Hua also egged on from the side. At this time, Jin Shuiwei also came out. When she saw Bai Hua at the door, she was a little nervous. But when she realized that Bai Hua's attention was on the tall woman next to him, she couldn't help but ask, "This is Qinyu." "This is Qinyu." Bai Hua volunteered again. His voice was especially loud. Jin Shuiwei understood. Although this was her first time meeting Qinyu, she had actually heard of this name a long time ago. After the concert, Bai Hua had deliberately told Jin Shuiwei about this matter. He didn't want the misunderstanding between the two parties to continue to deepen. At this time, Qin Guang didn't want to say anything. Why is everyone here? It's like seeing a ghost. Okay, I admit that my acting skills are terrible. I really can't act like I hate Bai Hua and love Jiang Yage in this kind of situation. It's better to keep a cold face and leave. Qin Guang first forced a smile, then said, I still have some things to do today and I don't really like to sing. You guys have fun, I'll leave first. After saying that, he quietly tried to break free from Jiang Yage's restraints. On the other side, Jin Shuiwei rolled her eyes and looked at Bai Hua's disappointed but determined eyes. She instantly understood the situation. Brother Bai Hua was very enthusiastic about Qinyu, but it was obvious that she didn't care about him. Currently, Brother Bai Hua was still in a state of unrequited love. Qinyu was a rose with thorns and it wasn't easy to pursue her. I'll help him. Jin Shuiwei quickly made a decision. It was rare for Bai Hua to finally walk out of her shadow and pursue his true happiness. Since I bumped into him, I'll try to find a way to matchmake the two of them. With this thought in mind, Jin Shuiwei also came over and hugged Qin Guang's other hand. Together with Jiang Yage, they took Qin Guang to the Heaven Harmony No. 1 private room. Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind Qin Guang, watched with wide eyes. A double sandwich attack. This attack was too fierce. Brother Guang couldn't hold on much longer. If he put up the tent in his pants at this time, he would be exposed on the spot. Today someone would definitely die. Brother Guang and I would definitely be stabbed to death by Brother Bai Hua, and then Brother Bai Hua would commit suicide. Lin Jingwei closed his eyes and clasped his hands together. He secretly prayed, "God, quickly come and save me and Brother Guang. Help me." Lin Jingwei's guess was right. At this time, Qin Guang was in great pain and happiness. The terrifying attack from the left and right was like a tsunami crashing into his mind. Jin Shuiwei's breasts were a little fuller than Jiang Yage's, and she had a better understanding of Qin Guang's desire to run away at this time, so she clamped her breasts harder than Jiang Yage's. The tightness and fullness of her breasts, which were tightly pressed against her body, brought about a strong sense of touch, were even clearer. The most insane thing was that Jin Shuiwei used one hand to press Qin Guang's arm against her chest. Her other hand grabbed his palm and pressed it directly on her lower abdomen. The flat abdomen without any excess flesh gave Qin Guang an amazing sensation. The devilish temptation was teasing his heart bit by bit. His face was still forced to maintain a cold and silent expression. However, there was a strange flush of blood on his face. This was because there was a flame burning in the depths of his heart. Not good. The old man's primitive power was about to go out of control. He was completely out of control. Keep for me. Namo Amit Ba. Buddha sits in the heart. Wine and meat pass through the intestines. No matter how the wind blows, I will stand firm. Alright, this mnemonic chant was useless. The self-torture of ice and fire finally caused him to lose control of one of his weapons. Feeling that a certain part of his lower body was gradually withstanding the small pressure, Qin Guang only had one thought in his mind. It's over. I'm such a terrible actor. Everything that happened in such a short period of time was too sudden. At this moment he had completely forgotten about the external cultivation method in the painting scroll. His mind was filled with sorrow for his current situation. He subconsciously used his left hand, which was not completely grabbed by Jiang Yage, to gently press down on the satchel hanging on his left shoulder. Inside the satchel was his heavenly holy grail. Then, he entered the world in the cup. Time stopped. Light flowed. When he came back to his senses, he was already standing in the middle of Cloud City. Lily's computer seemed to be gone. She was sitting cross-legged on the ground with her brows tightly furrowed. He had no idea what she was practicing or what the hell she was doing. Qin Guang looked at her silently. He was completely speechless. He felt that he was extremely unlucky today. His mind was already filled with the painting scroll, but he still failed at the last moment. The moment he failed, he was pulled back by the heavenly holy grail. He felt that his life was simply a comedy that had been performed to the extreme. Just as a certain great master once said, the essence behind a true comedy was actually a tragedy. The heavenly holy grail's world in the cup seemed to always be able to catch him off guard with unexpected methods. The 3-second attack last time was not even as good as 3 seconds this time. This unlucky world in the cup's ability to grasp the weak points was unparalleled. Qin Guang silently looked up at the blue sky with white clouds. He thought to himself, what's the use of me practicing the strongest cross-dressing skill in history? At this moment, Lily seemed to have sensed his arrival. She opened her eyes slightly and glanced at him. Pfft. She covered her mouth and laughed. She had completely failed. Qin Guang looked down at his clothes and touched his hair. Damn, he still had the same cross-dressing look after coming in. You actually look pretty good like this. Do you want to know what world in the cup is this time? Liuli chuckled. Qin Guang waved his hand. Alright, you don't have to say anymore. I understand. I accept my fate. Looking at his lifeless appearance, Liuli rolled her eyes and said mischievously, the world of women's clothing. Damn. Can I not say it out loud? Qin Guang hammered his chest again and again. His heart hurt so much that he wanted to die. Liuli shook her head. That won't do. Good news has to be said so that everyone can be happy. I don't want to talk to you. What were you doing just now? Why did I vaguely see something fall from your body and connect to the floor? Knowing that she never said anything nice, Qin Guang simply didn't care about what the next world in the cup was. Anyway, he would deal with it as it came. Lily also acted shamelessly. I don't want to talk to you, so I won't tell you. The two didn't talk for long before a familiar and terrifying suction descended from the sky. Qin Guang's head was sucked away. After Qin Guang disappeared, Lu Minghua's voice came from afar. Sister Liuli, it's too much to tease him like this. Liuli chuckled. Isn't this where the fun lies? Speaking of which, why don't you show any signs of transforming? Lu Minghua sighed. Don't talk about it. My roots have already grown for almost 10,000 miles under this cloud city, but I still haven't seen the bottom. I'm sinking deeper and deeper. Sister Liuli, that's a part of your soul fusing into the holy cup, but this flower's body has grown into the holy cup. Why are we two sisters so unlucky? Now I've become a vessel for his faith. I'm really tired. I feel like my body is about to overflow from being stuffed to the point of bursting. Tui. Talk properly, don't be so vulgar. Didn't you do it yourself? Who asked you to eat his hair? Didn't I get hurt by you too? Chapter 575. Lily was scolding Lu Ming when she suddenly froze. A rather strange expression appeared on her face. Lu Ming chuckled. It's coming, the meat toilet from the women's clothing mountain range. Lily glared fiercely in Lu Ming's direction. You are the meat toilet. Your whole flower is a meat toilet. Shut up, this emperor is a mirror this time. Lu Ming asked curiously, mirror? Isn't it acting? Why is it a mirror? Lily really didn't have the mood to explain to her, because Qin Guang's special training in the cup world had already begun. On the other hand, Qin Guang plunged out after passing through the long space-time tunnel. This time he didn't hit the water surface, but fiercely hit the mirror glass that was as hard as iron, making him dizzy and confused. He almost got a concussion. He staggered up and sat on the ground for a long time. He looked around but couldn't see anything clearly. He only felt that everything he saw was spinning and his head was buzzing. After a long time he finally came back to his senses. Damn it, I forgot to fill the cup with water this time. There was only one feeling in his head: pain. Sigh, why is my life so bitter? I just had to mix into the women's clothing world. How can I erase the stain in my life? If my father knows that his son has become a woman's clothing fetish, he will definitely beat me to death, right? With such a desperate mood, Qin Guang looked around. He thought that waiting for him would be countless dazzling women's clothing, but it was empty. There was nothing in the round cup world with a diameter of 1 kilometer. What's going on? Qin Guang tried to take 2 steps and looked around carefully, but it was really empty. He rubbed his eyes. Is there anyone around? No matter who it is, tell me what the hell is going on. Stop howling, this time the cup world is testing your acting skills, not your unlucky cross-dressing. Lu Li's voice suddenly rang out from the bottom of his heart, making Qin Guang so moved that his eyes brimmed with tears. After being tricked by the cup countless times, he finally gave it a try. It was a sad thing to lose the opportunity to practice the external kung fu of the Danqing volume. However, the world in the cup changed from cross-dressing to acting, which he feared the most and brought him back from hell to the human world. Even if he couldn't go to heaven, he should be very happy. Come to think of it, the judgment of the Holy Grail was not unreasonable. He had already put on this outfit long ago, but the moment before he came in, his mind was thinking about how to play the role he was currently playing, how to show his excellent acting skills, and how to become a professional actor so that he could deal with the extremely awkward situation he was currently in. On top of that, he had been pondering over the script whenever he had the chance. His current state of mind, coupled with the accumulation of his thoughts over the past few days, caused him to crave acting skills the most at that moment. Qin Guang had always thought that the Holy Grail was tricking him, but the Holy Grail had never failed to capture his desire and obsession. It's great that you're not cross-dressing. Qin Guang patted his chest. Oh my god, you don't know how scared I was just now. Don't just rejoice, this acting test isn't that easy to pass. Lu Li's tone was solemn. Qin Guang was suddenly alarmed. What do you mean? People will die? Yes, people will die, Lu Li replied. Qin Guang simply didn't believe it. Stop joking, it's just acting. If you don't act well, you'll die? Lu Li spat. Isn't it common for people to die in a play? But that's fake death. But this is the world in the cup. If you can't act to the satisfaction of the Holy Grail, you'll really die. For example, the prop gun will become a real gun. This time Qin Guang began to panic. If you have something to say, then say it. Don't shout about fighting and killing. It's useless talking to this empress, go talk to the mirror. Lu Li chuckled and didn't move again. After a short while, a mirror suddenly appeared in front of Qin Guang. It was about the height of a person and looked like a full-length changing mirror. However, Qin Guang was on full alert. Lu Li had already said that people would die. Who knew if a gun would suddenly jump out from the mirror? After waiting for a while, there was still no movement. The image in the originally misty white mirror suddenly became clear. Who is this? Why is she so beautiful? Qin Guang frowned as he looked at the overly beautiful tall woman in the mirror. Then he turned around and vomited. Damn, a mirror is a mirror, it's me in it, okay. He quickly tore off the wig, then ran to the corner of the world in the cup to find a small puddle and washed his face red. He also took off his slightly tight shirt. Only then did he return to the mirror. This time, the big bald man in the mirror was much more pleasing to the eye. This time, the world in the cup is a world of acting. There are a total of 3 major stages. The first stage is basic training. Qin Guang was happy. As expected of the considerate world in the cup. That's right, how could it be so heartless? From the beginning they should start from the basics. The second stage is intensive training. Qin Guang's smile became more and more brilliant. After the basics was the strengthening. It was very reasonable and humane. Lu Li must be talking nonsense. It's just practicing acting. Even if it's a line in the sky, it won't be life-threatening. The third stage, death combat. F***ck. Forget it, there's no need to say anymore. The moment he heard the name of the third stage, he knew it wasn't a joke. The old man admitted defeat. The so-called actor was 70% talent and 30% hard work. It was obvious that Qin Guang didn't have much talent. Otherwise, even as a beginner, he wouldn't have ruined the entire scene by playing a small role on the set. In terms of acting, his talent was in the negatives. However, the skills produced by the Heavenly Holy Grail couldn't be discounted. They had to be the strongest in history. Therefore, he had to use countless hours of hard work to reach the standard of the Heavenly Holy Grail to make up for his negative talent. He silently sat in front of the mirror and looked at himself in it. He thought to himself, what's the basic training like? Will the reflection in the mirror suddenly open its mouth and give a lecture? Just as he was thinking about this, he saw the reflection in the mirror suddenly move. The hand of the person in the mirror suddenly reached out of the mirror. When it retracted, it was holding a thick book as thick as the Oxford Dictionary. The next moment, the person in the mirror suddenly swung his arm and threw the Oxford Dictionary out of the mirror. Fortunately, Qin Guang reacted quickly and caught it. He took a look at the cover. Stanislavski and the Experiential Performing Arts. After all this time, this mirror was just a bookshelf. Did you have to be so domineering when you passed the book to me? Please read the entire text and practice your self-training in front of the mirror. The electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail sounded again. Studying such an obscure book was undoubtedly extremely difficult for an ordinary person like Qin Guang, who didn't want to be an actor. However, this was the world in the cup. He had no other choice but to study. Even if it was disgusting, boring, or even breaking down, he would just take things as they came. Studying was much more interesting than sharpening pencils. He had to thank the Heavenly Holy Grail's special ability to seal his emotions. Even though he knew that he was disgusted to the point of wanting to vomit under normal circumstances, he still easily finished the book. Took him about 3 years. During this period, he even had to make fixed expressions in front of the mirror from time to time according to the performing arts training methods recorded in the tome. For example, happiness, anger, loneliness, depression, and so on. Towards the end, the emotions became more and more complicated. For example, tears of joy, sorrow after extreme joy, or embarrassment and anger after receiving bad news, only to find out that the messenger had made a mistake. In Stanislavski's system, an excellent performing artist must learn to have absolute control over their emotions. When performing, they must become one with the character they were about to portray. In this kind of performance, it could be said that the actor was above the character. It was more like the actor had completely immersed himself in the character and pushed the boat along with the current. This kind of performance seemed complicated and unfathomable, but in fact it could also be learned through professional training. A beginner actor with outstanding acting talent would need about 3 months to learn all the methods and techniques recorded in the tome and reach the barely qualified standard. However, it took Qin Guang 3 years. 3 years without sleep, rest, food or drink, and tireless. Finally closing the thick tome, Qin Guang watched the book slowly disassemble in his hands. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. The Heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice sounded in his ears. Stanislavski and the Experiential Performing Arts completed. It wasn't easy. He let out a long sigh. The basic training should be over. The electronic voice sounded again. Basic training completed 1%. Pfft. Qin Guang's eyes widened. He was completely dumbfounded. It took him so long to finish a book, and now you're telling him that it was only 1%. Without giving him a chance to redress his grievances, the man in the mirror tossed him an even thicker tome. Qin Guang caught it and read it. He could only curse at the man's mother and father. I've worked so hard to learn the superficial theories of the experiential school, and now you want me to learn the expressive school. How inhumane. Comprehensive analysis of an actor's dual personality, the artistic techniques of the expressive school. In the theory of the expressive school, the performer had 2 selves. One was the actor's soul and the other was the actor's voice and body. In the process of performing arts, the first self, which was the actor's soul, would always remain in an absolutely calm state. However, through long-term training, the performance of the external second self could be expanded to the extreme, turning the second self into clay in the hands of the artist, which could be molded into any shape at will. Using a calm mind to control the body and voice, the performing arts could be displayed externally. This was because the performing arts itself was something that was shown to the outside world. The expressive school and the experiential school were two completely opposite theories. Although they were both performing arts, they were as incompatible as water and fire. Qin Guang, who had just been influenced by the experiential school, suddenly switched to the expressive school. This was torture for him. Fortunately, he could not break down in the realm of the heavenly Holy Grail, and he had endless time. Laugh loudly. Laugh crazily. Laugh implicitly. She laughed hysterically out of anger. Cry. Cry angrily. Cry of suppressed sadness. Cry of ecstasy and uncontrollable emotions. Unlike the experiential school, which focused on emotions, the expressive school's training methods mainly focused on the release of completely external emotions. In the process of training in front of the mirror, Qin Guang was required to have the exact same expression as the person in the mirror. Even the expression in his eyes and the voice that came out of his mouth could not be the slightest bit different. The same went for his body language. From simple to difficult, from static to dynamic. After finishing this secret of the expressive school, he finally understood the strengths of Jiang Yage and Jin Shirue. No matter what their personalities were like, at least in terms of acting, the two were simply impeccable. Just like Jiang Yage, even if she was secretly happy about something in front of the camera, she was a heroine who cried hysterically after losing her loved ones. Another 3 years passed and Qin Guang passed. 2 years later, he finished another form of expression, the past and present of the American method. The method was a deeper extension of the experiential school. In addition to showing the state of the character at the time of the event, the performer also had to completely create the character's personality and life, so that the character completely ignored the camera. On the stage or in the shooting scene, it was like living in a film and television work, using a natural way to live the story. For example, before Robert De Niro acted in Taxi Driver, he really drove a taxi for a period of time and experienced the life of a taxi driver. Then Qin Guang entered a sad, endless cycle. Experiential school, expressive school, and method school, these three forms of artistic expression alternated. After 33 terrifying cycles, Qin Guang finally pushed the basic training to 99%. Looking at the last book that was thrown out of the hands of the person in the mirror, the fourth performing art. Compared with the 99 tomes that he had read before, this last book was very thin, about the thickness of a thumb. But when Qin Guang held this book, he was so excited that his hands were shaking. Finally, he was about to become a wife. This unlucky basic training was really not easy. Even though he gradually got the feeling of reading, and his speed of reading became faster and faster, almost 100 years had passed. He felt that he had changed a lot. He had never liked acting and now he hated it even more. Like an ocean, a vast amount of acting knowledge was stored in his brain. Although he might have learned along the way and it was impossible for his brain to really remember that much, there were some things that did not need to be memorized. This crazy cramming training had brought him spiritual and physical sublimation and change, and he had found a special feeling for the art of acting from the bottom of his heart. But with his current state, he might be able to become a qualified actor after he went out, but he could not reach the level of the strongest actor in history. Now this booklet in front of him, the fourth performing art, was the last shackle for him to break through and become the strongest actor in history in one fell swoop. It was a crazy method that had never appeared in the entire history of the world of performing arts. Through the complete resonance of the soul and the body, one's soul and body would be completely hypnotized. After completely understanding the script, one would create a complete world in one's mind, not only including the past and present lives of the character that one was playing, but also the past and present lives of the other characters. Under the camera, one would become the master of the world. It was similar to the method that Lu Li used to hypnotize him to become the best actor last time, but it was of a higher level. It was to completely hypnotize oneself to become the character in the play, turning acting into real life. Qin Guang took a deep breath and slowly flipped open the stairway to heaven. The strongest best actor in history had finally passed the most primitive stage of accumulation and taken the most important step. Chapter 576. This, the fourth performing art, was not so much a method of acting, but an extreme method of self-hypnosis. The accumulation of the previous 99 books meant that Qin Guang, who wanted to practice the painting volume, needed to complete the external practice in advance, so that his body could reach the standard to stimulate the internal force. At this time he had spent almost 100 years accumulating the knowledge of the 3 performing art methods to the extreme, so that he could master the unprecedented performing art through the school of the world, produced by the heavenly Holy Grail. He did not expect that it would take him almost 50 years to study this thin book. Different from the previous 99 books, the last School of the World seemed thin, but its content was far richer than the previous 10 books. Every small detail mentioned in the book was a gem, and only with great effort could he make any progress. Now he finally understood the so-called "the stupid bird flies early," and he was especially stupid, so he had to be very early. Counting on his fingers, he finally understood why no one had been able to try the so-called School of the World so far. Thinking about himself, it took him 100 years to prepare, another 50 years to take the last step, and then there was intensive training in death combat. Even if his talent as an actor was really terrible, if it were an ordinary actor, it would take at least 30 or 40 years of learning. How long was an actor's normal acting career? They wanted to learn this move, but before they could even learn it, they were already halfway into their coffins. Therefore, people often said that old actors were the accumulation of life experience and life principles brought by the growth of age. It could indeed make the acting skills of an old actor who maintained a good mental state become more and more exquisite under the tempering of time. For example, Nanny Rong in Princess Pearl, which was once popular all over the country. After so many years, she, a supporting character who didn't have many scenes, was like a pot of old wine, becoming more and more remembered. In contrast, many people couldn't remember what the real villain, the Empress, looked like. In short, no one could learn what Qin Guang was doing. Even if he went out and restored the 4th performing art in its original form, no one could learn it, because they did not have the time and energy to do so. As he slowly closed the book, he closed his eyes and rested for a long time. Then he let out a long breath as if he was a martial artist in a state of enlightenment. A turbid breath escaped from his mouth. The 4th performing arts in his hand, however, did not vanish into nothingness like the previous 99 books. Instead, it slowly floated in the air and collapsed into glittering words that darted toward his skull. Qin Guang was caught off guard by this sudden change. He stood on the spot with his mouth wide open. His eyes were also widened as he looked at those bizarre things drilling into his mind, but he couldn't do anything about it. After maintaining this state for 3 days and 3 nights, it finally came to an end. Qin Guang shook his head, feeling a little swollen. He casually tried to recall, and the entire book Part 4 appeared in his mind. He could even easily recall the pages, lines, and words. Furthermore, it wasn't as simple as just memorizing the book. Every bit of correct understanding he had when he was studying the book also appeared in his mind, as if it had been engraved into his mind. I've finally experienced the true might of the force-feeding method of teaching. Qin Guang was filled with emotion. This was the correct way to open the transcending heaven Holy Grail. The last time he entered the Sea of Moments was just a beautiful accident. The overly high level of the 8th realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup made the language master training from last time unconventional, just like the first time he entered the Sea of Moments. This time, the acting world was the normal state that the realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup should be in. It was much stronger than the pure physical training of the divine immortal heavenly cup. It could even force this kind of knowledge into his brain. Basic training complete. Intensive training about to begin. As the electronic voice finished, the mirror in front of him gradually grew larger, turning into a square surface that was 200 meters in length and width. It stood upright on the ground like a giant screen. What is it this time? Qin Guang looked over curiously. The next moment, a familiar music suddenly rang in his ears. Looking at the majestic and domineering lion roaring in the golden film, Qin Guang was puzzled. Wasn't this the standard opening of a movie produced by the now-defunct Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer? More than 4 hours later, as the ending song of Gone with the Wind came to an end, Qin Guang finally felt the benefits of this intensive training. He was actually watching a movie. He was overjoyed. The heavens really have the virtue of cherishing life. They know that I'm really too bored. That's right, as the current generation's best actor, how could he only focus on himself? He had to observe and speculate about other people's works. Only by watching and thinking more could he continuously consolidate his acting skills. Even if the actors in the movie might not have the acting skills of his current world-class actor level, every top-class actor would always have a highlight in their life. In these highlight moments, these actors would display their skills to the extreme, and they might not lose to Qin Guang's world-class actor. It was just a pity that their highlight moments could not be maintained forever. Intensive training completion rate: 1 in 30,000. He had to watch a total of 30,000 movies. It was a small case. Strange, are there so many classic movies in the world? Qin Guang muttered. Forget it. Anyway, the intensive training was just watching movies, so there was no difference watching more or less. Wait, what was this? Looking at the terrifying 5 words in front of him, Qin Guang felt that his worldview was about to collapse. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling. Anyone who had seen it would understand that this was an ultimate masterpiece that was jointly starred by several best actors, dedicated to the vast number of movie fans. It was a super godly film that could refresh the audience's worldview, outlook on life and sexual orientation. Qin Guang only hated himself for jinxing it. Why did he have to question the number of classic movies? Now the second movie was such a heavy-tasting masterpiece, and it also set the tone for the rest of his miserable life. There was nothing more painful than this in life. As a new top-class best actor, his understanding of the performing arts had reached a height that ordinary people could not reach, but he had to endure the torture of terrible movies to the extreme. Unlike ordinary audiences who could leave if they were unhappy, they could also play with their mobile phones, read novels, chat on WeChat, or simply click across in the upper right corner of the screen. Although he was already disgusted to death, he still had to stare at the huge private screen in front of him with his eyes wide open. The feeling was so sour that it was difficult to write down. What was originally thought to be a leisurely movie trip turned into a painful torture of going to heaven and going to hell one moment. He finally deeply understood the true meaning of the so-called intensive training. One moment he watched a classic movie trying to figure out how others played the role, and the next moment he watched an extremely terrible movie to see what a terrible performance looked like and take warning. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling was just an appetizer, Villain Angel, Where Are We Going, Dad, and so on were just desserts. The most terrible thing was that some unknown director from some unknown country took a deceptive script that he wrote and found a group of unknown actors to shoot all kinds of strange bad movies. There were many bad Chinese movies, and English movies were also on par. Spanish, German, Italian, and other small languages could not escape. After all, there were only a few good classic movies. More than half of the 30,000 movies were these bad movies. The Heavenly Holy Grail's intensive training was to let Qin Guang experience all the bad movies in the world and see through the world of mortals before he could become a Buddha. But in the end he still made it. During this period he fainted a few times, and even the Holy Grail's emotional blockade was almost broken by him. When he heard the words, "Intensive training is over, the death battle is about to begin," he actually felt a sense of relief. This intensive training was clearly the most fatal thing. The towering mirror in front of him slowly moved again. It fell down bit by bit like a pool of water on the ground. First round of the death battle: participate in to live, and play the role of Su Fugue. As the electronic voice fell, the mirror on the ground gradually lit up like a 3D projection. Characters, equipment, and even houses slowly appeared on the mirror. This was a movie set that had been completely replicated. The young old strategist was yelling loudly. The equally young Gu Guangtou still had some hair back then, but his hairline was slightly higher. He was holding a script and arguing fiercely with a group of people in a corner. This scene looked vaguely illusory, but the effect was already far better than all the 3D projections in the world so far. Filming is about to begin. Please completely overlap with the main actor and complete the filming at the same time. The complexity of the Heavenly Holy Grail's world was far greater than the Heavenly Holy Grail's. The electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail was also much more diligent than before, and the training instructions were also more detailed and accurate. Qin Guang immediately understood the training mode of this third round of the death battle. It was to let him personally participate in the filming process of these classic movies. Just like in some variety shows, he had to face an oncoming wall and put his body in an appropriate position to pass through the various holes in the wall. If he failed, he would crash into the water. Of course, what he was going to do now was much more complicated than passing through the wall, but the principle was the same. Standing forward, his body completely overlapped with Gu Guangtou's. Feeling the shimmering projection floating around him, Qin Guang waited solemnly. He had trained his soldiers for 100 years and now was the time. That's right, what did death mean? 5 minutes later, lying on the ground and feeling his broken body slowly reforming like the liquid robot in Terminator, Qin Guang deeply understood what the word death meant. If he made a slight mistake in his performance, perhaps his expression, perhaps his body language, or perhaps his eyebrows were not raised high enough, he would explode without any warning. It was as if a bomb had detonated in his stomach and he had really exploded. If I die like this, I might as well find a gun and shoot my head. 1 death, 99 deaths remaining. When the number of deaths reaches 100, the Redeemer will truly die. Qin Guang felt a chill down his spine. It seemed that the heavenly Holy Grail was serious this time. Chapter 577. Large drops of cold sweat rolled down from his temples. Seeing the 3D projection beside him gradually dim, Qin Guang's rapid breathing gradually calmed down. It was too scary. It was like a nightmare. It was only the first scene of To Live, but he made 8 NGs and blew up 8 times. In the beginning he was still in a very casual state when he acted as Gubaldi's highlight. After all, he thought that Gubaldi's acting skills at that time were still in the budding stage, and could not be compared to him who had already mastered his world-class acting skills. However, the cruel reality hit him hard, and made him realize that no matter how rich his theoretical knowledge was, it was just a castle in the air without the test of practical experience. Performing arts is both acting and life. Acting was like life and life was like acting. Gubaldi might have been immature when he played Su Fugue, but when he brought out the state of living in the film, it was not compromised at all. When Qin Guang tried to use a relaxed and casual attitude to completely replicate it, he would always make some big or small mistakes in his performance. Unlike other people who had the chance to make a NG after making a mistake, Qin Guang, who was now in a life and death battle, would blow up as soon as he made a mistake from the inside out. He died miserably. Suddenly he did not even have time to fear death, and his whole body turned into countless pieces on the ground. It was finally over. But this was only the first scene of the first movie. At this moment, Qin Guang truly felt the threat of death in the heavenly Holy Grail. Was 99 chances to come back to life really a lot? At first he really thought it was a lot, but in the blink of an eye he had used up 8 times. He did not even know how many more movies he had to act in. In this situation where he could not see how long the road ahead of him was, every time he faked his death he was one step closer to real death. Qin Guang did not think that the heavenly Holy Grail was joking with him. After a short while, a new set projection appeared in front of him. It was the second scene of To Live. The detestable heavenly Holy Grail did not give him any time to breathe. Warning! Warning! The second scene is about to begin. Redeemer, please overlap with the main actor and participate in the filming at the same time. Otherwise you'll die in 10 seconds. Qin Guang did not feel tired at all, but he felt a sense of exhaustion all over his body. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to stand up, moving to stand completely overlapping with Gu Guangtu's projection. Taking a deep breath, his expression became serious. His tired eyes slowly regained focus, and his face no longer had the slightest bit of carelessness. Slowly closing his eyes, when Qin Guang opened them again, his eyes were filled with the unique gaze of Su Fugue, a person who had lived in a specific period of time and was currently experiencing a different kind of tragic fate. There was a hint of stubbornness in his murky eyes, and under the stubbornness, there was also a hint of weakness. Behind the weakness, there was a hint of anger and unwillingness. Qin Guang successfully substituted himself into the world of To Live. He became Su Fugue, but 15 minutes later he still exploded. Lying on the ground in a daze, Qin Guang felt his face slowly sticking back together under the tearing pain. He was completely at a loss. Impossible, I've already perfectly captured the state of the world faction. There can't be any problems with my acting. Why did it explode so suddenly? You have to give me a convincing reason. He could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. But in this world within a cup, no one could give him an answer. Although the heavenly Holy Grail was considerate, it was not considerate enough to tell him exactly what he did wrong. The emotionless heavenly Holy Grail's logic in judging success or failure was extremely simple. If it was right, it was right, and if it was wrong, it was wrong. As for why it was right or wrong, only the Redeemer himself could figure it out. In short, if he exploded, there must be something wrong, or else he wouldn't have exploded. The world within a cup of the heavenly Holy Grail would definitely not make a mistake. After another 5 explosions, Qin Guang finally managed to get through this scene. Although this explosion was slightly less than the previous one, he was even more nervous. He had faked his death for a total of 14 times, and only managed to shoot 2 scenes of To Live. He was terrified and broke out in cold sweat. Qin Guang didn't know how many scenes there were in this movie, but he was sure that if he didn't find the problem, he would definitely die in To Live. The 3D projection moved slowly, finally giving him some time to recover. Qin Guang's mind was frantically trying to figure out what the problem was. That's right, it must be that my acting skills are still at the theoretical level. As long as I continue to strengthen my practical training, the situation will definitely slowly improve. After about 10 sets of scenes, Qin Guang beat his chest and stamped his feet. What practice makes perfect, it's all a lie. He had already shot 10 sets of scenes, but why did he still explode without any warning? He still exploded several times in one scene. Although the frequency gradually decreased from an average of 5 to 3 or 4 times, the situation was still like drinking poison to quench his thirst, and he was slowly walking towards death. After another 5 scenes, he had already used the number of deaths 55 times. At this time, Azure, who had been pretending to be a mirror, couldn't sit still anymore. Hey! Little brat, don't cause trouble. Can you be more serious? I'm not joking with you. You're really going to die. Qin Guang pinched his nose. Nonsense, do I need you to remind me? I don't want to die either, alright? But I really don't know what's going on. I'm already very serious and I'm even using all my strength. Azure said anxiously, don't just focus on using brute force. Think of a way, use ingenuity, alright? Qin Guang spread his hands. Am I not using ingenuity? I've already practiced the 4th type of acting art, the world school, to the extreme, alright? If this isn't ingenuity, then what is it? I'm not going to talk to you anymore, I have to get back to work. Qin Guang waved his hand. He had thought that Azure would always be so insensitive, but now it seemed that she also had times when she was afraid. Wait, the more she was afraid, didn't it mean that the old man was really in a bad situation? *CK, the more he thought about it, the more despair he felt. Even Lily was afraid. Another 10 sets of shots were shot, a total of 25 explosions, a total of 80 explosions, and there were only 19 chances left. Azure was completely unable to settle down. When Qin Guang was in the process of gluing again, she jumped out and impatiently communicated with Qin Guang. I really can't. If this goes on, everyone will be finished. Seriously, if I go too far, you can't protect my life. Qin Guang asked doubtfully. Azure was silent for a moment and then said with a bitter smile, I could have, but recently I've used all my divine power in other areas and I can't move it back for a while. I didn't expect that a mere acting world would be so difficult. This Empress has miscalculated. Unfortunately, this Empress knows nothing about this matter, or else I could give you some advice. Now I can only rely on you. Qin Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 578. How about this? I will use my divine power to buy you 2 hours of free time. Think about it carefully. Do your best. I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. With that, Liuli's voice gradually disappeared, and the projection on the ground also dimmed. Liuli used her remaining divine power to interfere with the training process of the world in the cup, and forced Qin Guang to pause. Fortunately, a strand of her soul had fused with the heavenly Holy Grail, and she had transformed into the mirror in the world in the cup. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be able to pause. Qin Guang sat on the spot like a stone Buddha. Facing the threat of death for the first time, he truly valued the so-called 3,000 worlds test of the heavenly Holy Grail. This time, Liuli couldn't protect him, he could only rely on himself. He scratched his head furiously, thinking hard. What was the problem? Was I not proficient enough in the world school? That was obviously impossible. He didn't learn from nothing but through the accumulation of knowledge, and then with great difficulty comprehending the world school of performing arts. In other words, he first comprehended the Tao and then put it into practice. Up until now he had acted in more than 20 sets of scenes, and every time he was completely focused, not daring to slack off. He should have been completely familiar with the routines of this art of performing arts. He even felt that he had lived in the original work, and perfectly interpreted the artistic conception and life that the director and the original author wanted to portray. Even some of the deeper meanings that the author wrote that ordinary people didn't understand were filled in after he comprehended the entire worldview. Wait a minute. Qin Guang suddenly realized that he seemed to have grasped the problem. He realized that he had been going in the wrong direction from the beginning. The Holy Grail required him to completely replicate Baldi Ji's performance when he played the role of Su Fugui, not to replicate another Su Fugui. He didn't want to act as Su Fugui, but the current Su Fugui Go. He shouldn't be constructing Su Fugui's world but Gubaldi's world. Gubaldi's acting skills, situation and other factors when he acted in To Live was the worldview that belonged to Gubaldi, and that was what he really needed. At this moment Qin Guang felt enlightened. So it turned out that his acting might be formidable, but he had gone off topic. From the very beginning he had been heading in the wrong direction. Of course he was wrong again and again. After waking up from the shock, Qin Guang stood up straight. At the same time the 3D projection on the ground gradually appeared again. It turned out that 2 hours had passed while he was in deep thought. Lu Li's voice was filled with extreme exhaustion. How is it? Have you found the reason? Qin Guang nodded lightly, and with extreme confidence he overlapped with Gu Guangtou again. I understand. Watch me next. Death Combat Completion 1%. Comprehended drama within drama. As the 3D projection's old strategist shouted the word finished, in a disappointed and relieved tone, Qin Guang's terrifying To Live journey finally came to a successful end. The post-production editing and special effects obviously had nothing to do with him. He sighed heavily. He was so excited that he was drenched in sweat. Thank God he had come to his senses at the critical moment and finally found the right direction. But even so he still had to leave the scene twice in the entire filming process. Maybe it was because of the fatigue from the continuous filming, or maybe it was because he had read too much into Gu Guangtou. Until now Qin Guang only had 17 chances to revive. Perhaps sensing his fatigue, the Holy Grail gave him half an hour of rest after filming, allowing him to completely separate himself from Gu Guangtou's worldview. For the second film, Qin Guang had to act as Marlon Brando in The Godfather 1. The entire process was perfect and he did not explode once. For the third film, Leslie Chung in Farewell My Concubine, he exploded twice and was only left with 15 chances to revive. The number of revivals was decreasing. Even if he had found a way, the threat of death was getting closer and closer. Only then did Qin Guang finally understand the true meaning of death combat. Different from the 3 performing arts, Performance School, Experience School and Method School, his brand new World School had another drawback. After self-hypnosis he constructed a complete worldview which was too grand and realistic. It was difficult to get into character and even more difficult to get out of character. If he did not go through this continuous crazy training of getting into character and out of character, it was easy to not be able to get out of character in time after getting into character and live in character. This death training was indeed to improve Qin Guang's proficiency in the World School of Acting, but after the first film, To Live, the remaining 99 films only had one purpose, and that was for him to master the technique of getting out of character. In the world in the cup where emotions were sealed, through this seemingly stupid and boring repetitive training, he was able to continuously form a state that was more at his fingertips. Otherwise, when he went out, he would be completely stuck in character and unable to get out. If that happened, he would rather die than live. According to normal development, 99 chances of resurrection corresponded to the shooting of 100 films, which might be just enough. But because Qin Guang began to go astray, there were only 15 chances left when he only shot the third film. Liuli gradually became nervous, but she did not dare to make a sound and disturb Qin Guang in the slightest. Now, although Qin Guang was only acting, the situation was getting more and more serious. Even Lu Ming, who was in Yunqing, felt the heavy atmosphere. Her 2 huge flower leaves were clenched tightly like fists. Although she did not like Qin Guang at this time, she also silently whispered in her heart, "Qin Guang, do your best. If Qin Guang really died in the cup, it would really be over." At this time the pressure on Qin Guang's shoulders was not small. He did not need to think about others and he did not want to die. Some people crumbled under the pressure while others performed better than usual. Qin Guang used to think that he was the former, but when he really came to this life and death juncture he found that his potential was actually stronger than he thought. Humans just couldn't live too comfortably. They had to push themselves a little bit to find out where their potential and limits were. Qin Guang, who had spent 3 years in university in a daze at this moment, seemed to have returned to the state of the last sprint 2 or 3 months before the college entrance examination, when he said that he would concentrate and not be distracted. In the blink of an eye, dozens of years had passed in the mountains. Among the 100 films, some films were shot quickly and the shooting time was only 2 months, but some were so long that it made people's hair stand on end, and it often took several years. On average, the shooting time for each film was about 3 or 4 months. After the influence of the 100 films, it had taken nearly 30 years. Of course, this was an absolute amount of time. Qin Guang, who had never stopped resting, had no concept of time at all. He only cared about carefully and attentively playing the role that he needed to play. At the same time, he was counting with his fingers how many more chances he had left before he would die. His concentration potential had been completely squeezed out. Every time he faked his death, his condition would improve a little. The increasing mental pressure and the increasingly grim situation actually made his condition even more perfect. By the time he died for the 98th time, he had gone through another 5 films before exploding once. By the time he died for the 99th time, and the next step would be the endless abyss, he had even forgotten about his fear of death. He was only left with absolute calmness, and he went through the last 10 films in one go. Even Lu Minghua, who had always disliked Qin Guang, sighed and said to Liuli, "This guy has really exceeded my expectations. In the past he didn't have such a state of mind, did he? He was much more impetuous than he is now." Liuli, whose soul had turned into a mirror and was immersed in the world of acting, was a bit slow to react in the body of the emperor in Cloud City, but her eyes were already full of tears. She nodded slightly and said, "This is probably the level that he really wants to pursue." Watching the time and space tunnel in front of her gradually open, and the soul that had turned into a mirror was slowly released, Liuli wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with her arm calmly and put on an angry expression. Light swirled and Qin Guang appeared in Cloud City again. Before he had the time to show off his magnificent feat of passing the last 10 stages in a row, Liuli had already spat all over his face. "Are you stupid or what? Can't you understand such a simple logic? You've been blinded for nothing for 80 times. Are you trying to scare me to death? Idiot. 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 What a loser who can't accomplish anything but spoils everything." Liuli cursed. Qin Guang was losing ground again and again. "Even the emperor had spit? And why is your spit so strong? It hurts when it hits my face. Fortunately, my face is thick and I can take it." With a shake of his body, he returned to the outside world. His hands were still held tightly by Jin and Jiang, who were sending him to the private room of Heaven Harmony No. 1. Qin Guang slightly narrowed his eyes. It was time to show his real skills. "Come out. Qin Yu's world." Chapter 579. The overseas female elite was currently at the stage of starting her own business in China. She was a little annoyed by Bai Hua's pursuit and had no interest in Bai Hua at the moment. This person's personality was skewed. He liked women and his standard was Jiang Yage. Most importantly, he didn't have a penis. The worldview of the character he was playing instantly formed in his mind. As he was being pushed forward, he gently closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was a completely different person. Some of the impulses unique to men quickly disappeared from his mind as he completely immersed himself in the role. The world-class acting skills were so domineering. "Okay, but I'm not good at singing. You guys sing, I'll just sit here for a while," Qin Guang said with a smile. "How is that possible? Beautiful people can't sing badly. Qin Yu, you're too humble." Jin Shuriyue wanted to matchmake the two of them, so her attitude was as gentle as possible. Although Jiang Yage wasn't as cunning as Jin Shuriyue, she also felt that it was strange. Perhaps she and Qin Yu hit it off. When she first saw her, she was attracted to Qin Guang because of her beautiful smile. Now she was hugging his waist and sticking close to his body. Even though they were strangers for the first time, She couldn't feel any awkwardness or discomfort in her heart. Usually she wasn't even this affectionate to other female artists. Forget it, don't think too much about it. Maybe this is what it means to hit it off. No wonder Brother Bai Hua fell in love with her at first sight. He really has a magical charm. Lin Jingwei, who was following behind everyone to Tianhe Room 1, was the most flustered. When Qin Guang's body stiffened, he already wanted to turn around and run. But the sudden turn of events made him shiver. Seemed like Brother Guang had changed into a different person? What's going on? His voice was clearly the same as before without the slightest change, but why did it feel like he was a different person when he spoke with the same voice and tone without any obvious change? What's wrong? Am I hallucinating? As the only person who knew what was going on, Lin Jingwei's uneasiness that he couldn't get rid of disappeared inexplicably. It even gave Lin Jingwei the illusion that the person here today was not his brother Guang at all, but Qin Yu, who should not exist in this world. This was 2F** King scary. Lin Jingwei shuddered silently and followed her in. He greeted the other girls in the room with a stiff expression, then sat alone in the corner and looked at Qin Yu, who was surrounded by many girls like stars surrounding the moon. It's over. Brother Guang has been cross-dressing for too long. It has really opened up a whole new world hidden in his heart. At this time, Qin Guang was so skillful in the crowd of women, chatting with them casually. Everything looked so harmonious, natural and casual. It was as if he was born to appear in this crowd of young and beautiful girls, chatting with them about skincare, beauty, fashion trends, or the recently trending anime and teen idols. Lin Jingwei felt that things were getting worse and worse. He couldn't understand how Brother Guang, who was clearly not interested in these things, did it. The scariest thing was that Brother Guang obviously didn't know anything, but he could boast about what others said as if he was really a professional. Oh my god. Bai Hua didn't know how Lin Jingwei felt as if he had seen a ghost. Instead he quietly pulled him. Finally, I managed to keep Miss Qin. I was a little too impatient before, but it's okay. We can take it slow. Jingwei, tell me about her usual hobbies. I think she has a wide range of interests. Lin Jingwei shook his head blankly. I'm not too sure. What can I say? Play Dota? Drive? Pick up girls? Play darts? Play the piano? Maybe she knows ventriloquism? Forget it, it's better not to say too much. On the other side, Jin Shuiwei felt that Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua were left alone at the side after coming in, so she tried to bring the topic in the direction of matchmaking Bai Hua and Qin Yu. Qin Yu, which school did you study in? Brother Bai Hua is a genius graduate from Cambridge. The two of you must have a lot in common. Qin Guang, who was completely in the zone, smiled disdainfully. Our Yale and Cambridge are not particularly friendly schools. Lin Jingwei, who was drinking Coke, nearly choked to death. The Coke that went into his nostrils was so sour that tears and snot flowed out. Oh my god, Brother Guang, you're invincible. Can't you stop bragging? What Yale? I graduated from Coconut Milk University. Bai Hua smiled. Oh, so it's Yale. I always feel that I hit it off with her. Lin Jingwei covered his nose and snorted. Not to mention Yale, even if Qin Yu said she was from Western Pacific University, Brother Bai would be able to boast about it. Seeing that her first plan didn't work, Jin Shuiwei came up with another plan. Then how do you plan to start your business? In my opinion, although there are many new companies emerging in the domestic IT industry, the competition in the entire industry is extremely fierce. It has become a Red Sea. It's better to try to start with some more solid traditional industries and try to explore the overall environment in our country. This is just my personal opinion. I don't know much about business, so please don't laugh at me. Bai Hua, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation, was so touched that his eyes were brimming with tears. All these years of treating Shuiwei like a sister were not in vain. At the critical moment, you still know how to help me. If this matter succeeds, I will definitely remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You're much more reliable than Jingwei. Jiang Yage, who was next to her, also understood Jin Shuiwei's thoughts. She smiled and egged her on. I think so too. Oh right, Brother Bai, isn't Tianqing a big company in the energy industry? Why don't you go to their company as a consultant? That's pretty good. How about this, Brother Bai, why don't I help you? I'll think of a way to help you get into Tianqing. Jiang Yage patted her chest heavily. As she spoke, her body was still pressed against Qin Guang's body, and her thighs were tightly pressed against his. Lin Jingwei became nervous again. With his brother Guang's personality, was he going to rock the boat? In the end, Qin Guang didn't move at all. He didn't even feel the slightest discomfort. He just smiled and thanked Jiang Yage. Then he looked at Bai Hua, who was anxiously looking at him. I originally considered Tiancheng, but I still think it's more comfortable to rely on myself. Mr. Bai and my sisters, I appreciate your kindness. After being rejected again, Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were a little disappointed. Bai Hua, on the other hand, was disappointed but felt that it was reasonable. Everyone had come to Yinhua to sing. Besides, other than Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage, there were also 2 or 3 second-generation singers in the room. They were either playing around or had seriously released singles. After chatting for a while, Qin Guang finally half-egged and half-forced him to take the microphone. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage had a good plan. First, they would let Qin Yu sing a solo song. Then they would pick Hiroshima Love. Naturally, they would create an opportunity for Bai Hua to sing a duet with her. Although Bai Hua wasn't a professional singer, he was still pretty good. Lin Jingwei silently looked at Qin Guang, who had picked up the microphone with a helpless look on his face. After holding back for a long time, he still couldn't pull out the wet wipes from his trouser pocket and stuff them into his ears. He can't really sing, can he? Lin Jingwei thought. However, when Qin Guang opened his mouth, Lin Jingwei's heart calmed down. Fortunately, the singer hadn't been replaced. This was the real brother Guang. Although his voice was as beautiful as a fairy's, his unexplainable sense of music was undeniable. As always, he was off-key and circling the stage 360 degrees. While seeing this scene, there was no need to sing Hiroshima Love. Jin Shiyue silently deleted the song list and didn't dare to mention it again. Everyone felt that God was fair. He had given Qin Yu such a tall, beautiful, elegant, and graduated from Yale. Yet he had given her a good voice. It was too cruel to others. Qin Yu sings so well. Bai Hua cupped his hands in front of his chest, but his face was full of enchantment. Lin Jingwei shrank back. Damn, it felt like brother Bai Hua was basically a useless person now. You don't even have your principles. Seeing that he had more or less dealt with it, Qin Guang pretended to look at the time and was ready to leave. Jiang Yage's eyes were sharp. Yo, Sister Qin Yu, are you using a popcorn phone? Don't many people in the US use apples? Qin Guang didn't have the slightest discomfort. He elegantly said, I don't like to use the same things as others. Alright, it's getting late. I really have to go. I have a flight to Beijing tomorrow morning, so I can't sleep too late. With this reason, no one could make him stay. Although Jin Shiyue felt regretful, she still struggled and said, then let brother Bai Hua send you. It's not safe for a girl to go out so late at night. Qin Guang waved his hand and refused. No need, no need. I drove here myself. You guys sing, don't send me. On the other side, Bai Hua still didn't give up. He braced himself and wanted to stand up. Qin Guang looked at him coldly. His eyes hid a deep sense of annoyance. Lin Jingwei coughed violently, waking Bai Hua from his stupor. He secretly blamed himself for being too impatient. He had already made her unhappy, and if he continued to pester her shamelessly, it would only make her feel more and more disgusted. Forget it, he decided to leave it at that for today. At least he had achieved his most basic goal. Then Lin Jingwei, sisters, shall we say goodbye? Solomon, you look cuter than on TV. Qin Guang covered his mouth and smiled. Then he turned around and walked away. This series of small actions made the image of a strong woman who liked cute little girls jump out of her skin. Lin Jingwei was shocked. Brother Guang's acting was godly. At this time he finally understood the reason for Qin Guang's sudden change. Brother Guang must have had an explosion in his universe and inexplicably awakened his acting talent. A natural best actress. Damn best actress. And so it was born. At this time Jiang Yage put down the microphone and stood up. She said goodbye to her sisters and said that she was going to order some drinks. After walking out of Tianhe Room 1, Jiang Yage went straight to the public restroom. Standing in front of the restroom, she hesitated for about 3 seconds. Then she knocked on the door of the men's restroom and shouted in a low voice, "Is there anyone inside? Mop the floor." There was no movement. She rushed in. The doors of the 9 cubicles were wide open and they were empty. Jiang Yage turned around and walked out of the men's restroom. She went straight to the women's restroom next door. This time she didn't pretend to be cleaning and directly opened the door. All the private rooms in Inori had their own private restroom. This public restroom was indeed not used. Out of the 12 stalls in the women's restroom, only one was tightly shut. The sound of running water and rustling could be heard coming from inside. Jiang Yage bent down and looked at the shoes through the gap below. She had a look of realization on her face. When she was sticking to this guy just now, she smelled this familiar scent. There was a faint musk, or perhaps it was more appropriate to say that it was a man's scent. I always felt that there was something fishy about you, and I was right. No wonder I felt that you were kind when I first saw you. No wonder I felt that you were cheap when you smiled just now. I thought that I had fallen in love with a woman. Scared me so much. But if this is you, then it all makes perfect sense. Your acting is a little too overbearing. It's really similar. I've never seen anyone act more like you. If I hadn't found your popcorn at the critical moment and confirmed my thoughts, I would have let you run away. But you've finally spoken your heart in front of me. My hot blood didn't flow in vain. You must have been touched by me. You still like me, right? Qin Guang. Let's see where you can run this time. Chapter 580. Jiang Yage didn't like to think too much about things, but it didn't mean that she was stupid. She just didn't want to spend her mind on things that she didn't care about. For a girl like her, the real strength wasn't the messy reasoning in her mind, but her intuition. She had her intuition first and then used it as a starting point to deduce all the way. Only then did she completely confirm the fact that Qin Yu was Qin Guang's impersonation. In this regard, Jin Shiyue wasn't as good as her. In fact, it was quite a mess. The safest place for Qin Guang to change was, of course, in the second private room, but Sister Hua wasn't in the mood to wait for him. She finished his makeup, threw him a bottle of makeup remover and left quickly. After coming out of Tianhe No. 1, Qin Guang didn't think too much. He just wanted to change back into men's clothes as soon as possible. As for why he chose the women's restroom, cough cough cough. Those who understood. Unfortunately, there was no one inside, but he didn't feel regretful. Instead, he went into the stall and quickly changed his clothes. High-end clubs like Inor didn't focus on customer flow. The employees also had their own restroom. This public restroom was sparsely populated, so Qin Guang wasn't worried about being seen outside. He heard the door open halfway, but he didn't think much of it. People would leave when they came in to use the restroom. By the time he finished removing his makeup, the person would have already left. Sure enough, after a while he heard the door open again. The person should have left. He didn't know that this was Jiang Yage's careful disguise. Finally, he removed most of the makeup on his face. Then he stuffed the wig and unisex shirt into his bag and carefully checked the front camera of his phone. There was no sign of makeup on his face. He smiled with satisfaction and was ready to leave this damn place. He listened carefully for about 10 seconds. And when he was sure that there was no one else in the women's restroom, he opened the door boldly. Just as he was about to walk out, he was shocked by a certain person who was looking at him with her hands on her hips and a sneer. He shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. Then he narrowed his eyes and opened them again. The person was still there, looking at him with deep meaning in her eyes. Qin Guang took a step back, then closed the door with a backhand. Impossible. This was impossible. This was an illusion. It must be an illusion. I must have opened the door the wrong way. I'll be fine if I do it again. Then he carefully opened the door a little bit. Jiang Yage, who had been blocking the door with her hands on her hips, was already standing at the edge of the door. She tilted her head and stared at him meaningfully with her big eyes. This was not a dream, nor was it an illusion. This was King real. Stop hiding. You're not dreaming. It's me, Jiang Yage said. Qin Guang's mouth twitched. What a coincidence. Why are you in the men's toilet? Jiang Yage glanced at the bag he was trying to hide behind his back and said with a sneaky smile, "This is the women's room. You should also hide it. I saw your LV bag." Qin Guang took a deep breath and suddenly looked behind her with a horrified expression. Look, there's a ghost in the mirror. Then he fiercely opened the door, planning to escape. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yage had already seen through his plot. She immediately opened her arms and held the cubicle door from both sides. You want to run? Do you believe that I won't tell Bai Hua about you pretending to be Qin Yu? Qin Guang hesitated for 10 seconds. He carefully weighed Jiang Ye's character in his heart and came to a despairing conclusion. She could really do such a heartless and wicked thing. Fine, I won't run anymore. Let's see what she wants to do. I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head, and I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head. Do whatever you want. I'll let you do whatever you want. Bumping into her head-on was really bad luck. Even if it was Jin Shuiwei who bumped into him, it would be better. Say, I won't run. Tell me, what do you want? It's all up to you, okay? Qin Guang sighed. He was like a piece of meat on the chopping board. Jiang Ye's big eyes turned, and one clever idea after another appeared in her mind. This was a heaven-sent opportunity for her to grab hold of his blunt weakness. If she didn't make good use of it, she would be letting herself down. Look at you pretending to be a gentleman in front of me all day long, but you must have at least masturbated in front of me countless times. You know that you can eat your fill and the whole family won't starve, but you put me halfway up the mountain and tormented me. As a person, you can't be so selfish. Jiang Ye was very proud of herself. In fact, she had selectively neglected one thing. The truly selfish person might be herself. She understood why Qin Guang would dress as a girl and pretend to be Qin Yu. But her subconscious was avoiding this question. She was very clear that Qin Guang had made such a big sacrifice and risked being exposed. He dressed as a girl to charm Bai Hua. It could only be because he had fallen in love with Jin Shuiwei. He longed to make the act with Jin Shuiwei real, so he used this extreme method to eliminate a strong competitor. And now he had succeeded. When she confirmed that Qin Guang was Qin Yu, Jiang Ye completely understood. But she forced herself to be immersed in the joy of finding out his embarrassment, deliberately forgetting this possibility. Because she really couldn't accept it. I was the one who confessed, and I was the one who took the initiative. Why did you fall in love with Sister Shuiwei? This isn't fair to me. When the accident happened in Painting Lake, Jiang Ye was willing to give the chance to live to Jin Shuiwei without hesitation. But this time it was different. She could give up her life, but when it came to love, she wanted to be selfish for once. What's more, Sister Shuiwei didn't like him. Wouldn't it be a happy ending for everyone if he and I were together? Jiang Ye comforted herself and numbed herself. She had succeeded. Now she just wanted to do something to cut off this guy's escape route. She wanted him to understand that she was serious and not joking with him. Just as she was thinking about what to do, the door to the women's restroom was suddenly pushed open. Jiang Ye woke up with a start. Without thinking carefully, she pushed Qin Guang inside, followed by him, and locked the cubicle door from the inside. The unique clattering sound of high heels on the ground came from afar. She didn't know if it was a guest or Yi Nua's staff, but that wasn't important. What was important was that Qin Guang and Jiang Ye were now squeezed face to face in this small cubicle. Originally, Yi Nua's toilet cubicle was very large, but that was only relative to one person's use. Now that two people were squeezed in, it was a big problem. In fact, it wasn't that Jiang Ye couldn't force the distance between the two of them. If she wanted to, her back was against the door and there should be at least a foot of space between their chests. But she had to be willing to do that. Qin Guang was already clinging to the water tank behind him, but he couldn't stand Jiang Ye clinging to him fiercely and hugging him tightly. His eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly. He wanted to shout and ask Jiang Ye what she wanted to do. However, Jiang Ye quickly reached out to cover his mouth and shushed him softly. Then she tiptoed and put her mouth to his ear. Don't be agitated. If someone hears it, it'll be all over. Sister Shuiwei and I will be in the headlines. Qin Guang was shocked, and a creepy news headline popped up in his mind. Two women fighting for their husbands, Jin Shuiwei's fiancé and Jiang Ye have an affair in the toilet. This headline was too explosive. There was no need to say anything else. It was guaranteed to be on the headlines of major news media for 3 days. It would jump to the top of Weibo's trending search. Unless there was a coup in a country, there was no way it would drop. If he was a gossipy person, he wouldn't be able to resist such an exciting and explosive headline. He was really well behaved. Fine, he had to accept his fate. Once their hearts calmed down, the current situation between the two of them became particularly exciting. Although Jiang Ye had never shown herself in a sexy style, Qin Guang, who had seen her many times, knew that this girl's chest was very voluptuous. At this moment, the two of them were so close to each other that a strong sense of oppression swept over like a wave. Their ribs were pressed hard and the elasticity was amazing, but it also had a soft touch. The places where their bodies were in contact through their clothes were pressed into two perfect circles. From time to time they would gently move and tickle their breasts. Jiang Ye's head was resting on his shoulder, and the hot breath she exhaled was gently tickling Qin Guang's earlobe. He didn't know what kind of faint fragrance was coming out of the collar of her little silk vest and burrowing into Qin Guang's nose. Thanks to Yinua's cleaning auntie, there was no smell in the bathroom at all. The smell that Qin Guang smelled was pure and free of impurities. But this was even more terrible. Earlier, when he was at the entrance of Tianhe No. 1, he had been attacked by Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye from the left and right. Later he had suppressed his anger with his world-class acting skills. Now that he was being humiliated by Jiang Ye in front of him, how could he remain calm? Jiang Ye's face was also red. She was also shy, but she didn't have the slightest intention of backing down. She had a faint feeling that she didn't have many chances left. If she didn't take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grab hold of his weakness and do something that he couldn't struggle against, sooner or later she would be gradually forgotten by him. It wasn't enough to just rely on her phone to send him some big shots. Feeling the sudden force in her lower abdomen, as if she had been hit by a bull's horn, Jiang Ye's face became even redder. Her eyes gradually became misty, and the hand that was hugging Qin Guang's back slowly moved down. She gently picked up the lower edge of Qin Guang's t-shirt and directly buckled it on his strong back. Qin Guang was scared out of his wits by Jiang Ye's expression at this time. He desperately lowered his voice and said, "Jiang Ye, what are you doing? There are people outside. Calm down. Don't mess around. You're just being impulsive. I'm not worthy of you at all, okay?" Qin Guang's words didn't make Jiang Ye regain the slightest bit of sobriety. She was still greedily reaching up with her hands until she touched Qin Guang's two shoulder blades. She exhaled and said, "I've never cared about who's worthy or not. That's not love, that's business. I've never been impulsive. From the moment you saved me, I never thought of any other possibility. You think I'm joking with you, but you don't know how serious I am. I'm not impulsive at all. I'm serious. Yes, there are people outside, so stop struggling and relax. You two-faced guy, aren't you making a lot of noise?" As Jiang Ye said that, she used a little force to push her body forward again, and her breathing became even heavier. With his body suddenly being squeezed, Qin Guang's eyes immediately widened. "I can't take it anymore." Even with the old man's 1,000 years of cultivation, it seems like he can't withstand this peerless demoness' fierce attack. Should I simply enter a world sect to save myself? Although I know this method will definitely work, but I can't bear to do it. The old man is just an ordinary person, he's not a person who can sit still. The person the old man is facing is also not an ordinary person. It's Jiang Ye. She's the national goddess Jiang Ye, who is famous throughout the country and the Asia Pacific. To be able to endure to this point, the old man is almost a saint. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame Qin Guang for looking at her nude photos in the past. The two of them were still wearing their clothes, but his mind had already started to uncontrollably recall those nude photos that he had seen in the past. Should I struggle for one more second? Don't. There's someone. Qin Guang made a final struggle and said in a low voice. Jiang Ye completely ignored him. So don't make a sound. Didn't you just say that I can do whatever I want? If you don't want Bai Hua to know the secret, now immediately kiss me. No. Qin Guang turned his head away. If a person like me lived in ancient times, I would definitely become a legend. I might even be stronger than Lu Xiaohui. If someone hears it, it's over. At this moment, the woman in high heels seemed to have finished peeing. She padded toward the door, opened it, closed it, and disappeared. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. Now that there's no one, you still want to deny it? Imagine if Bai Hua knew that the woman he likes is you. What kind of state would he be in? Jiang Ye was like a female version of the little demon Tyrion, speaking in a seductive and threatening tone. But her hand did not stop stroking Qin Guang's back for even a second. She seemed to want to rub her body into Qin Guang's so that the two of them could fuse into one. Actually, I'm really a cross-dresser. Don't you mind? Qin Guang gradually lost himself. His eyes became more and more hazy and his voice trembled as he struggled. But his voice also seemed to melt steel, becoming soft. I don't mind. I also like to see you in women's clothes. So beautiful. Actually, I already knew it. Do you remember? When we escaped from Disneyland, I've been holding on to the maternity dress you wore. When I have the chance, I'll get you one. I know fashion very well. It'll look better than the clothes you chose this time. Qin Guang felt that Jiang Yage had gone completely crazy. He really wanted to tell Jiang Yage, ask her what she liked about him, and he would change. Deep down, he was intoxicated by his manly instincts, but what was left of his rationality told him that he could not continue developing with Jiang Yage like this. No matter what, he was now Jin Shiyue's boyfriend on the surface, but in the dark he had slept with Xue Jingxi. Only God knew if he had really done that with Wenwen. Now there was another Jiang Yage. His body was not stressed at all, but the more he thought about it, the more screwed up he felt. How to suppress Jin Shiyue's matter in the future was already a headache. Adding another Jiang Yage was not just asking for trouble but jumping into magma. But in the end he could not say it. Although there were many coincidences in the development of the matter, the final result was that he had used women's clothes to make Bai Hua fall head over heels for him. If Jiang Yage really revealed it, he would not be able to raise his head in public in the future. Lin Jingwei would not be able to explain himself to Bai Hua, and the two of them would probably turn against each other. This was too heavy a responsibility to bear, and the consequences were too serious and scary. With Jiang Yage's personality, Qin Guang did not dare to bet on her being reasonable. Hurry up and kiss me or I'll get angry. Jiang Yage gave him an ultimatum. Chapter 581. Qin Guang didn't have a choice. The pressure from her body was getting heavier and the two of them were getting closer and closer. The strength of her fingers on Qin Guang's back was also getting stronger and stronger, to the point that it became a scratch with her fingertips. Qin Guang didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. Instead, he felt an inexplicable intoxication. That's right, in this narrow space with his back against the toilet tank, feeling Jiang Yage's pressure step by step, Qin Guang's willpower was quickly collapsing. Forget it, what else could he say? He took a deep breath, slowly lowered his head and slowly kissed Jiang Yage's red lips. Jiang Yage's heart was beating like thunder, her face was red like blood and she gradually closed her eyes. Success, I finally succeeded. You cold-hearted bastard, do you really need me to do this to make you succumb? When their lips touched, Jiang Yage was so excited that her whole body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. She was completely intoxicated in this kiss, no longer thinking about the matter that had been bothering her recently. The matter between Sister Shiyue and him had been completely exposed. Originally there was a mountain between them, but now there was another mountain. The situation didn't improve because of her continuous attacks. Instead, the distance between her and Qin Guang was getting further and further. Maybe they were getting closer in WeChat, but in reality they were getting further and further apart. Jiang Yage didn't blame Jin Shiyue. At that time, Qin Guang was in a bad situation and Jin Shiyue had made a huge sacrifice. For things to turn out like this, it could only be said that fate made a fool out of people. But Jiang Yage will never admit defeat. What I want, no one can take away, I won't let anyone. She used more and more force, whether it was her hands, waist, or mouth. Her lilac tongue stretched out like a viper coming out of its hole, and fiercely pushed open Qin Guang's teeth that were originally closed together. As for Qin Guang, whether it was his mouth, his chest that was pressed against Jiang Yage's plump chest, his hands that were subconsciously hugging Jiang Yage's back, his body that was as hard as iron, or even the girl's body fragrance that was crazily rushing into his nostrils, all of these things were crazily attacking his manly instinct. In a daze, a divine voice seemed to reverberate in his mind. It was the singing of a holy angel, purifying his filthy and vulgar soul. What awaited him was not life but heaven. People in the Jianghu would often encounter all sorts of unstoppable forces. At this time he was facing this irresistible force. Jiang Yage, who was the meat on the chopping board, was too charming. No, Jiang Yage should be the knife that chopped the meat and he himself was the meat. The blade-like Jiang Yage used her unique youthful charm to ruthlessly tear apart Qin Guang's originally weak resistance. Qin Guang's heart was bleeding and he silently thought, if there is a next life I must be a good person, but now I am sorry. His hand that was hugging Jiang Yage's body tightened and more force. Even before he himself was aware, he unconsciously reached down, and didn't know when he had grabbed Jiang Yage's buttocks. Jiang Yage moaned and she became even more shy. She took her right hand back and fiercely grabbed Qin Guang's left hand that was playing with her buttocks, and the two of them that were pressed against each other's chests also pulled apart a little. Seems that I am a little too much? Qin Guang suddenly recovered a little and was about to take his right hand back. However, Jiang Yage didn't want to stop him at all, but launched an even more violent counterattack. She actually pressed Qin Guang's left hand to her chest, and her right hand grabbed the back of Qin Guang's left hand and pressed harder, and then her lips came up again. Even though there were 2 layers of clothes between them, the real touch was not discounted at all. The exquisite elasticity burst out like holding a towel that was soaked in water and kneaded into a ball. Qin Guang would never have thought that Jiang Yage would do this. The intense kiss continued. Qin Guang, who had already let go of all resistance, began to subconsciously clench his right hand's 5 fingers, and greedily wanted to occupy the most beautiful fullness in the world. Harder. Harder. Jiang Yage suppressed her voice and said softly. As she spoke, her body began to tremble violently again as if she had been greatly stimulated, but she still suppressed it and did not dare to make a louder sound. This was not her home but the bathroom of Inua Club. Although it was unlikely that anyone would come in again, the subconscious sense of excitement and tension lingered. Time gradually passed and a full 5 minutes later, the two's lips were even a little swollen. At this time, Qin Guang's right hand had gone straight under the small vest into Jiang Yage's clothes. Their skin had already touched, and if he took another step forward, it would be a bottomless abyss. After going crazy, Jiang Yage finally gradually recovered. She blushed and withdrew her hand from Qin Guang's back, feeling satisfied. Then she looked at Qin Guang's lips and suddenly burst out laughing. "You sausage mouth." She smiled mischievously. Qin Guang looked at her angrily. "Aren't you the same?" Jiang Yage exclaimed in a low voice. "Ah, really?" She covered her lips and rubbed them for a moment. "Really?" Looking at her clever and cute look, Qin Guang could not deny that his heart skipped a beat, as if he had been hit in his soft spot. How cute. In any case, he had finally passed the dangerous part. Qin Guang sighed in his heart. He felt excited, but he also secretly rejoiced. Perhaps there were more regrets. "You've been out for too long. Why don't you hurry back? They will look for you, right?" Qin Guang asked tentatively. At this time, Jiang Yage suddenly looked up at him and she could read a little joy in his eyes. "What? Do you think this is the end of it?" Qin Guang's heart skipped a beat. "Again? You kissed me and touched me. You will take responsibility, right?" Jiang Yage said sinisterly. Qin Guang's face turned pale. He could not refute her. "Think about Brother Baihua's face when he finds out that you are the one he likes." Jiang Yage used this trick again and it was really effective. I lost. What do you want? Tell me, right?" Qin Guang asked dejectedly. Suddenly, Jiang Yage fiercely pulled up her little vest. Her fingers hooked around her chest and continued to pull. Just like that, she opened up her chest and faced Qin Guang. "Now, I want you to look at me." Jiang Yage had an extremely evil and smug smile on her face. Qin Guang looked at her face. Even though he had seen her face in photos many times, this time was different. It suddenly changed from a flat surface to a 3-dimensional one. It was even scarier. "Left and right hands, bring them up." Qin Guang accepted his fate. "Now that I have your seal on me, from today onwards you are mine." Jiang Yage straightened her neck and said fiercely, "If you dare to ignore me again, I will die with you." After saying that, she suddenly took out her cell phone and pointed the camera at her chest, taking pictures of Qin Guang's hand and her chest. Then she turned around and took pictures of both their faces. "You are not allowed to ignore me in the future. I will take pictures of everything." Qin Guang's eyes widened. He never thought that this would be the end. One of his weaknesses was still in her hands, and in the blink of an eye, another one was in her hands. Just then Jiang Yage's cell phone rang. It was Jin Shirua. "Song Yage, where have you been? It's been so long. I asked someone to look for you at the front desk just now, but I didn't see you." Jiang Yage raised her hand and pressed Qin Guang's hand again. She looked straight into his eyes and said, "Sister Shirui, my stomach is a little uncomfortable. I am in the toilet outside. I will be back soon." "Oh, if you are uncomfortable, can we go back early?" Jin Shuiwei asked with concern. Jiang Yage's left hand was still exerting force. It doesn't matter. I will be fine after squatting in the toilet. After hanging up the phone, she let go of her hand, then slowly tidied up her clothes and smiled at Chen Guang. I'm really serious. Don't think that I am joking. She turned around, went out and left. Her movements were smooth. She felt refreshed and satisfied. Only Chen Guang was left sitting on the toilet alone, silently thinking about hitting Yiling. Hello, is it Yiling? Someone has been set up here. Now the situation is out of control. Can you come and save me? What exactly does she like about me? Chen Guang shook his head. I don't understand. I really don't understand. In fact, Jiang Yage didn't understand either, but she felt that if she really had to find a reason for these things, it wouldn't be called like or love. Perhaps it was because of his handsomeness, or perhaps it was because he had saved her life, or perhaps it was because he looked very cute when he acted in Tears Never End on the set, or perhaps it was because of the manliness he showed when he escaped with the two of them at Disney, or perhaps it was because of the joy he showed when he changed into maternity clothes for the first time in the car, or perhaps it was because of his unparalleled handsomeness when he played the piano on stage. After all, Jiang Yage had secretly watched the video at least 10 times, but every time she watched it her eyes were filled with little stars. This was fate but also a sin. Who would know if they didn't walk to the end? Unlike animals, humans were always creatures dominated by extremely complicated emotions, weren't they? Dragging his tired body, Chen Guang carefully moved out of the women's toilet, then quickly walked out of Inua with his head down. He took a taxi and went directly to the military guest house. Qian Ming had sent his luggage there earlier. Sitting in the car, Chen Guang hesitated for a long time, but then he sent a WeChat message to Jin Shuiwei. Tonight, I met your grandfather when I had dinner with Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei. He seems to like me very much. Let's find a suitable time to confess to him. Thank you for taking care of me these days, but it's really unfair for you to continue like this. Chen Guang felt a little tired. Sitting quietly in the hotel room, he didn't even have the interest to read the script of Women, because he had already memorized it. With his current acting skills, it wasn't difficult for him to act in this movie. Forget it, don't think about these messy things anymore. I still have a lot of trouble on my hands. In the end, the hidden story behind the hot pot poisoning case and the possible life and death crisis that one might face were more important. He finally put his thoughts away. The current source of faith value wasn't enough, and it wasn't coming fast enough. The production capacity of the Dart Cup had reached its peak. It was time to think about how to increase the production capacity of the other Dart Cup realms. The next morning he was woken up by Wu Tong's phone call. Wu Tong only said one sentence to make him completely awake. I finished the task and came back. The family that you asked me to investigate a few days ago died on the way back to Lilai County from Wujing last night. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.